Chapter 560. Everyone was stunned by Sky Tiger's beautiful and exquisite appearance, and no one noticed Yaya, who was on top of Sky Tiger's head. But very quickly, he regained his composure. Knowing that it was a rare opportunity, he bowed to Little Fool. "Please guide me." Suddenly his vision darkened, a gigantic shadow enveloped his frail body, an exquisite and strange metal giant appeared in front of him. "Oh my God, Blue Tide! Big Brother Mengnan! Is that a spirit?" Xiao Yu's face was filled with excitement, his words incoherent. Although his aura was not as strong as a Heaven's Road saint, but the smell of a saint was something that Tang Tian would not mistake. He had some suspicions in his heart, although they were all saints, but the saints of the Sacred Saint Galaxy were obviously different from the saints of Heaven's Road. Xiao Yu's face revealed an embarrassed expression. He felt that he was displaying his slight skill in front of an expert. Such a crude grass sword, in front of these important people, was not worth mentioning. Little Fool summoned out the Honorable Martial Cauldron. The Honorable Martial Flame enveloped the red reed's pith root, quietly burning. After about 7 to 8 minutes, the red reed's pith root that was as thick as a finger had become extremely soft, sparkling and translucent, extremely beautiful. The originally faint sword concept had become even more obvious, revealing its edge. On the faces of the villagers, there was still some hesitation, but everyone subconsciously gathered in front of Tang Tian. The floating Sky Tiger beside Tang Tian made many people secretly guess that Tang Tian was definitely a big figure in a big city. "If we can endure through these few days, we will be able to live." Xiao Yu's voice was hoarse, his eyes red. "Blue dwarves." Tang Tian's eyes suddenly lit up with 2 light auras, but he was quickly attracted by another term that Xiao Yu said, "Blue Tide." Hearing Little Fool's words, Xiao Yu's face flushed red. Xiao Yu turned his head, wanting to remind Tang Tian to quickly escape, but when he saw Big Brother Mengnan's expression, he was stunned. Big Brother Mengnan's face was sinister, he was extremely bloodthirsty, he muttered to himself, but the killing intent contained within caused his heart to tremble. "Is he all right?" Tang Tian asked Xiao Yu with concern. No matter how stupid he was, he could tell that Xiao Yu was in trouble. However, what surprised him was that Xiao Yu seemed to be very good at healing. A few unknown ingredients were ground into powder and mixed with water. In Heaven's Road, this was called the Blue Sea. In Sacred Saint Galaxy, this was called the Blue Tide. No matter where it was, when such a scene appeared in front of them, it represented death, represented 1,000 li of scarlet land. The waiter glanced at Tang Tian and said, "Saint Domain, there's something strange." Little Fool said indifferently, "You don't have a Saint Domain, so it's not easy to control these flames. However, it's not like there's no way. I need to think about it. You should go and comprehend your harvest first." The Blue Dwarf's main camp was in the void. Tang Tian was deep in thought. If the Blue Swamp was a crack that led to the void, then wouldn't he be able to pass through the Blue Swamp and kill his way to the Blue Dwarf's main camp? "Yes, Senior." Xiao Yu's face was full of sincerity as she held the grass sword and left. Along the way, all the villagers looked at Xiao Yu with envy. Just as he was about to ask Xiao Yu where the nearest Blue Swamp was, there was a sudden commotion outside, and cries of fear could be heard incessantly. The faint red beam of light flashed in front of Tang Tian's eyes. Tang Tian guessed that Ling Su and the rest were most likely in the hands of the Blue Dwarfs. Once an expert made a move, one would know if they were real or not. Bing quickly followed the defenses of the village and methodically set up a defensive line. The villagers saw hope, and all of them became more enthusiastic. Xiao Yu, whose eyes were red, carefully covered his brother with a blanket. Tang Tian wanted to say something, but was interrupted by the waiter. "That's right." The surrounding villagers all had pale faces, their faces full of fear. "Is it Firewalker? Or Argus?" Xiao Yu's eyes lit up, but he shook his head and muttered to himself, "No, Firewalker is red and Argus is gray." But if he was not by Tang Tian's side, if Tang Tian was in danger, after fighting so many battles, although the current Tang Tian could not be called a famous general, but he was definitely not a newbie in the battlefield. Now that the Blue Dwarves were approaching aggressively, and their morale was high, rushing forward now was courting death. Yes, I was born without a saint domain, and I don't know why. Xiao Yu said honestly, but his eyes still flashed a trace of sadness. A tender little hand snatched the grass sword from his hand. But in the eyes of the red-eyed Tang Tian, it only reminded him of the battle at the Blue Light Sea, and reminded him of his missing comrades, causing the killing intent in his heart to boil. 2 minutes later, a 3-inch-long, exquisite and translucent grass sword that looked like it was weaved from blood-colored glass appeared in front of everyone. Xiao Yu, you seem different from them. Tang Tian hesitated for a while but still asked. When he jumped over the walls of the village, looking at the scenery outside, he could not help but take in a breath of cold air. At the end of the vast and desolate black riverbed, a blue line was advancing towards them. The blue line stuck closely to the horizon, was densely packed, and one could not see the end of the blue dwarves. Unknowingly, the crazy young man had already become the leader of the entire group, and his position was irreplaceable. Xiao Yu was ecstatic and immediately took out the red reed's pith that he had just dug. All right. Bing did not decline, and started to arrange the defense. Previously, when he sensed that Tang Tian was injured, his heart was in his throat, but Tang Tian was unconscious, and he had no way of coming out. Xiao Yu heard Big Brother Meng Nan talking to the air, and was startled. Xiao Yu's face was pale white, his body trembling. The light beam pierced through the walls of the house, leaving behind 3 finger-sized holes, and pierced through the entire house. Luckily there was no one in the house, if not he would have been in danger. For you. Little Fool waved his hand, and the grass sword landed in Xiao Yu's hands. So when he heard Tang Tian calling him out, he heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao Yu's face changed, Tang Tian picked him up, and rushed out. Tang Tian was confused what fire traveler Augustin, but he noticed something else. Out of everyone, only Xiao Yu was not a saint. Materials. Little Fool said coldly. Big Brother Meng Nan, your mechanical giant is so powerful. Is it a general? Xiao Yu looked at Sky Tiger, his face full of surprise. At this time in the wilderness, it would not be any safer than the village, and having separated from the main group, the chances of survival was very low. That's great, I was just about to go and find you guys. Yes. Xiao Yu's face was full of worry. The blue dwarves' reproduction ability is extremely terrifying. Legends say that their homeland is in the void, and through the cracks in the void, they infiltrate the various continents. The places that are invaded by the blue dwarves will become the blue swamp. After a period of time, when the blue dwarves' reproduction peak is over, the rapidly expanding blue dwarves have no choice but to expand outwards, and they will rush out from the blue swamp, devouring the various continents, and that is the blue tide. Little Fool, who had just awoken from his deep sleep, his face congealed. Wars did not make him worried, he had experienced too many wars. No matter how cruel the war was, to him, even if they could not win, protecting Tang Tian's safety was not a problem. Xiao Yu looked as if he had obtained a treasure, and kowtowed 3 times, "Thank you, senior." Grass sword? Little Fool muttered to himself. Using the sword's inherent sword concept, the idea is not bad, but a pity, the technique is too rough. Without the refinement of flames, there are too many impurities, the power is too weak. Little Fool refined another 2, and then started to weave the rope. His movements were very slow, so slow that Xiao Yu could see it clearly. Xiao Yu knew that the other party was giving him pointers, and kept it in mind. He had always been waiting for orders, and his heart was filled with regret. As an outstanding military general, he could see the pros and cons far more clearly than ordinary people. Prepare to defend. Tang Tian jumped onto the tallest roof of the village, and shouted to the bewildered villagers, "If you don't want to die, gather at my place." Yes, he is a famous general. Tang Tian was pleased. Bing was definitely a famous general. He clasped his hands together, the scarlet-red grass sword floating in his palms, releasing a pure sword concept. Blue dwarves. Come out, Uncle Bing. Tang Tian looked at Little Fool with a weird face, and lowered his voice. Hey, Little Fool, what are you doing? Pretending to be a senior? You don't do such a good thing. Ever since he knew that Little Fool was his other side, Tang Tian naturally thought that Little Fool was evil and dark. Crazy Tang was their true foundation. If Crazy Tang was safe and sound, then no matter what problem there would always be a chance. And if anything happened to Crazy Tang, then regardless of whether it was the Southern Cross Army or Ursa Major constellation, it would be a devastating blow. There were not many people in the village, only 146, but what made Tang Tian feel at ease was that all of them were saints. What's going on? Tang Tian patted his chest. If there's anything you need help with, just say it. Tang Tian was not courteous at all. His tone was unquestionable. He was like the leader of the group, standing on the tallest roof of the village, giving orders. Xiao Yu's face was filled with worship and respect. He had weaved countless of grass swords, but none of them could compare to this grass sword. Tang Tian's dream talk made Xiao Yu feel that Big Brother Wang Lin definitely had a blood feud with the Blue Dwarfs. But at the moment he could not care so much. Tang Tian said to Bing, "Uncle Bing, come and set up the defense. Quickly escape." Mechanical giant. Xiao Yu blurted out, his face revealing a look of joy. It was not only him. The other villagers immediately looked at Tang Tian differently. Little Fool held onto the grass sword, suddenly pointing straight ahead. Yaya stood on top of Sky Tiger's head, looking around. It was very awe-inspiring. "Thank you, Big Brother Wang Lin," Xiao Yu said gratefully. He looked at his brother on the bed, his tender face revealing a maturity that did not match his age. He shook his head. The wounds on brother's body were left by the Blue Dwarfs. "I asked them before, they did not go to the Blue Swamp. How did they meet the Blue Dwarfs? I suspect that the Blue Tide is about to start?" Tang Tian curiously received the palm-length red grass sword. The grass sword was weaved from the roots of the red reed sword grass, and was warm to the touch. Tang Tian was moved. That faint red light, he could feel the sharp sword concept. When Little Fool completed the last knot, the sword concept suddenly congealed. The grass sword gradually left the ground, floating in the air. He took out a bright red grass sword and passed it to Tang Tian. "Big Brother Wang Lin, I'll give you a grass sword. This is a weapon that I refined." He then puffed out his chest and said proudly, "But I know many things." Chapter 561. Little Fool was completely speechless. Alright, he actually discussed such a profound question with this fool. He was the crazy one. "Get ready." After a moment of silence, a low voice came out from Sky Tiger. 10,000 years ago, I left my comrades. They died. I am still alive. I have regretted it for countless of years. I told myself, I will never make the same mistake again. Inside Sky Tiger, Bing secretly shook his head. Following Crazy Tang, he had never fought a battle to his heart's content. Every time he did, it was extremely sullen. Not good. This is too much. Bing glanced at the blue tide in the distance. The enemy had already entered their 20-li radius. Although the villagers were trying their best to restrain themselves, Bing could still see the fear on their faces. The villagers below were in an uproar. They were arranged on the roofs, mud walls, in a disorderly manner. Everyone's position was meticulously arranged. Unfortunately, these villagers were all novices, but luckily, although they were not outstanding warriors, most of them were qualified hunters. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. He shook the chains. The chains were as long as 10 m. The bronze balls were the size of millstones, extremely heavy. Every 3 inches was a short sword. Upon shaking, it was densely packed, like a centipede. Such a lethal weapon, just looking at it would cause people to feel fear, their scalps going numb. Long-distance battle became the only choice. Thinking back, pay attention to your position. Do not leave your position. Very good, just like that. Pay attention to control the energy output. It must be uniform. It is very easy. Bing encouraged the novices loudly, then said, "Pay attention to my commands." Like the red reed's pith, the energy it contains, the purity is very high. It is rare to see in Heaven's Road. We have always said that energy gives birth to spirits. In places with dense energy, it is very easy to form martial spirits. But the sacred Saint Galaxy is not. The red reed's pith does not have any martial spirits, not even a fragment. And what is even more peculiar is that it actually contains sword intent. I have never heard of any plant that would contain sword intent. Tang Tian was overjoyed. He had to say, This weapon was indeed very suitable to deal with the blue dwarves. The blue dwarves were numerous, small in size, they had a higher defense against energy, but their bodies were weak. The moment the energy touched his body, Bing's face changed. Little Fool introduced coldly. "Alright, I have to be more realistic. No, I have to be a spirit general too." Bing's face congealed. "Not as good as I thought. Although the people here are born saints, they do not have spirit domains." Tang Tian opened his mouth wide and was dumbstruck. These phenomena in the sacred region completely subverted his common sense. Tang Tian took it. It was a chain as thick as an arm, and at both ends of the chain were two strange-shaped weapons covered with spikes. Once the blue dwarves got close to them, these villagers would definitely collapse. "Do you really want to kill your way back to the void?" Little Fool floated over. "Don't tell me you think that with just the few of us, we can fight against the entire blue dwarves population?" Each ball of light shot out a beam of light towards the sky tiger in the sky. Looking down from the sky, hundreds of light pillars of different colors converged on the sky tiger's body at the same time. It was a spectacular sight. Of course. Tang Tian's fighting intent soared. "I have martial spirit contracts with Crane and Ling Su. They are not dead. They must be waiting for us to rescue them. So, it's best if you don't place any hope on their fighting abilities." Bing said helplessly. "Truly? Making people feel helpless." Little Fool looked coldly at the two fools. He was too lazy to persuade them, since he was not the one in charge. "Sounds interesting." Tang Tian's eyes lit up. He suddenly thought of a question. "Then if we sell these things to Heaven's Road, won't we earn big?" Even if these villagers did not have spirit domains, but the intense energy undulation was so strong that it made people fearful. In terms of energy intensity, the saints of Heaven's Road would definitely not be able to catch up. But Tang Tian was surprised again. Bing saw Tang Tian's expression and finally laughed. "Ha, I'm just trying to scare you. Although these fellows' attacks are too wasteful, but controlling their energy is practically their instinct. And all of them are like a human-shaped energy bag. It's practically prepared for an exceptional general like me." He bellowed and flew into the sky. Bing noticed Tang Tian's surprised expression and laughed bitterly. "It's weird, right? But the truth is like that. I checked their bodies, and they are all the same. But their saints are much weaker than ours." "What a good weapon!" Bing could not help but exclaim. The blue dwarves were skinny and small, and the mechanical spirit weapons were huge, but it was like punching an ant. And this centipede hammer was like a huge comb. One could imagine once it was unleashed, the scene would definitely be blood and flesh flying everywhere. Little Fool's voice was childish, but Tang Tian's face was filled with shock. He muttered to himself, "Why don't they have martial spirits? Recruits, 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 it's always recruits. Could it be because I was an instructor for recruits in the past?" It was even worse this time. The recruits had at least completed their daily training, and the villagers did not even have the most basic knowledge. The Shang continent was remote, and Red Grass Village was even more so. The living environment was terrible, and the villagers mostly hunted and gathered for a living. The intense energy undulation caused Tang Tian to raise his eyebrows. "Worried?" Tang Tian laughed. His snow-white teeth were like a wild beast baring its fangs. A wave of bloodthirsty and fierce aura surged out. "I'm worried that I can't find them." The villagers who were placed in various positions all lit up with bright light auras of different colors. In every corner of the village, light regiments lit up one after another. "If we are dealing with the blue dwarves." Little Fool took out something and threw it to Tang Tian. "This weapon is more convenient." Little Fool looked at Sky Tiger. Tang Tian's face was innocent. "Don't you think that earning money is a very powerful thing?" "Yes, our spirit domains are formed from the martial spirit and can allow the movement of energy to break free from the restriction of the meridians, and thus be able to more directly imitate the laws of heaven and earth. But they do not have meridians. Their bodies are like a gigantic vessel, can directly store energy. They are born in such an environment, and their affinity with energy is much stronger than the martial artists of Heaven's Road. They do not even need meridians to absorb and refine energy. The way they use energy is the way of saints." "How is it?" Tang Tian asked Bing. One of the three. Little Fool's tone was filled with anger. Where's your chia? Where's your dream? Where's your journey? Why do you only think of star coins? Where's your ambition? Where's your foresight? Where's your structure? Are you a merchant? Come on. You are now a tyrant. Thinking about such low-level things all day, such unambitious things, such unfashionable things, it's simply beneath your status. Bing ordered. In truth, not only did Little Fool discover the difference between the sacred Saint Galaxy and Heaven's Road, the attentive and experienced Bing also quickly discovered the difference. But Bing's research target was the villagers. To better arrange the defense line, he needed to have a more accurate understanding of the villagers' strength. Looking at the blue tide in the distance, Bing took a deep breath. His gaze suddenly became sharp. He raised his arm and shouted, "Remember what I said just now? Come, let us try it once." Bing explained, once they are born, they can directly use energy. They completely do not need to worry about the amount of energy. They are naturally able to hold a lot of energy, and replenish it is very convenient. This also means they do not need to worry about the efficiency of energy. Their attacks are extremely low on the efficiency of energy usage. Our spirit techniques are developed through layers upon layers of martial techniques. We are even more proficient in using less energy to achieve a satisfactory result. But they are completely wasting energy. I have never seen a martial artist with such a low efficiency of energy usage. His tone was resolute and decisive. When can I lead an invincible army and kill in all directions? Little Fool was stunned. Bing understood the recruits very well. In truth, in such an intense battle, the recruits did not have the space to survive. But now that he only had these cards, he did not have the leeway to choose. I am too lazy to name it, just call it Centipede Mace. The bronze mace is a star treasure from Mensa constellation, silver rank, mountain-shattering mace. It is an ordinary item. The only advantage is that it is heavy. All these short swords come from all constellations, the grades are all low, and the attributes are all different. I feel that this weapon is very good against the blue dwarves. The centipede mace requires a lot of strength, but I believe you still have this bit of strength. As for strength, Tang Tian felt that he had an endless amount of strength in his body. Prepare for battle. No spirit domain? Tang Tian was shocked. Without a spirit domain, how could he become a saint? He could not wait to rush into the midst of the blue dwarves and kill in all directions. Tang Tian noticed that Little Fool's gaze was different, and asked curiously, "Little Fool, what's with your gaze?" Bing's light laughter came out from Sky Tiger. "I am a military general. There is no more suitable grave than the battlefield. There are people who live, there are people who die, there are people who win, there are people who lose. You are still you, why you live, why you die, in your heart. The situation is not that bad, right? He is still a saint." Tang Tian was shocked by Bing's conclusion. He was hoping to first defend this wave of attacks, and then return to kill his way into the blue tide, straight to the yellow springs. Tang Tian stood up and left, leaving behind a stern back view. He suddenly felt something and turned his face. In his vision, the blue tide had already crossed the warning line. The energy in the sacred Saint Galaxy is much denser than in Heaven's Road. But it is very strange, the materials here do not have spirits. In Heaven's Road, as long as there is a bit of energy, it is very easy to have a spirit. Although there are many low-level martial spirits, but martial spirits are the most common things. Treasures have martial spirits, martial artists have martial spirits, even those high-level materials all contain fragments of martial spirits. But in all the things here, I do not see any martial spirits. Little Fool looked at Tang Tian speechlessly. Little Fool's words were directed at Bing. The fool was a lunatic, he could do even the most ridiculous things, but Bing was an outstanding military general. At the crucial moment, his mind was calm. Finally, Little Fool said helplessly, "Aren't you worried about the blue dwarves?" "Good stuff. Weird?" "Well, weird." Tang Tian asked curiously. "Even if you die?" Little Fool raised his eyebrows. Chapter 562. The orange-red ball of fire rose up again. As it exploded in mid-air, The effect of the attack was even more outstanding. The shock wave swept everything in its path, as though it was destroying everything in its path. Tang Tian's eyes suddenly surfaced a layer of blood red. The fighting intent in his body was like a blazing flame burning fiercely. The difficulty of controlling the mechanical weapon's aura was even higher. 1,000 level of control aura, even in his era, was an extremely astonishing standard. Blood and flesh flew everywhere, just like the blue dwarf's bodies exploding at the same time. Not a single blue dwarf was left standing. The scene was so bloody, it caused everyone who witnessed it to turn pale. Truly full of fighting spirit. Sky Tiger Soldier muttered to himself. He then raised his voice to encourage the villagers. You did well, just like that, let's do it again. Get ready. Both parties charged forward with all their might. When the energy converged, Bing, who was brimming with confidence, immediately sensed that something was amiss. The area enveloped by the centipede hammer became a meat grinder. Blood and flesh flew everywhere. The densely packed short swords were like a fine comb, combing the entire area back and forth, combing it. Tang Tian's fighting instincts were so valiant that it made people's hair stand, and upon entering a bitter battle, Tang Tian was extremely focused, and his fighting instincts would become even more terrifying. Bang! Inside Sky Tiger, Bing wiped off his cold sweat, thinking to himself, it was so close just now. In the blink of an eye, they met with a loud bang. Tang Tian suddenly shook the centipede hammer, the 10 long centipede hammer, with a whoosh, transformed into a whirlwind. Tang Tian's figure was completely enveloped in the whirlwind. Sky Tiger in the sky lit up again. This time, it flew out, but it was 3 light bullets. Every light bullet was a size smaller. The 3 of them flew together, flying to the center of the Blue Tide's troops, and exploded. Sky Tiger's martial spirit lit up with a dazzling light aura. This was the characteristic when it was fully activated. At this time, Bing also abandoned all distracting thoughts. With full concentration, all of his consciousness, like countless of tentacles, extended into the surging sea of energy. The soundless shout was like thunder rumbling in his heart. Tang Tian was like an angry bear, roaring as he rushed towards the Blue Tide. Soon, balls of light lit up one after another, and beams of light entered the Sky Tiger. In the blue ocean, a horrifying, scorched crater the size of an entire village had appeared. The so-called control aura was to control energy. If the energy exceeded a certain amount, it would be impossible to control. He had never imagined that the energy output of these villagers would be so terrifying. Tang Tian had completely abandoned his spirit skills. He was using his body to fight. Even the Blood Saint rarely used such a crude and simple method, but the effect was surprisingly good. The lines of fire revolved around the spindle-shaped cocoon of light. He suddenly had a flash of inspiration, and a strange idea appeared in his mind. The ball of light spun faster and faster. Dazzling fiery lines were the sparks produced by the high-speed spinning energy. Everyone was stunned by the scene. Even Bing himself was dumbfounded. Not to mention the villagers, all of them had their mouths wide open, and their faces were filled with shock. Bing's expression was like he had seen a ghost. Such a strong power caused Tang Tian to be stunned. He stared blankly, and suddenly cheered loudly, "Uncle Bing, you did well." The tide of blue dwarves, countless of cold and murderous triangular faces, strange blue skin, swayed in his vision. The scenery on both sides flew past him quickly. Tang Tian's heart, however, was abnormally calm. The light bullets were getting closer and closer. The blue dwarves below were trying their best to escape in all directions. But what they did not expect was that the light bullets would actually explode at a distance of 15 m away from them. Bang! But the earth-shattering attack just now had given the villagers a huge amount of confidence. At least the fear on their faces had dissipated by half. To the recruits, victory was the best tonic. It could stabilize their emotions and allow them to adapt to the battlefield. After reducing the energy by half, Bing's control was immediately revealed. A light bullet that was half the height of a person once again flew in a beautiful arc towards the group of blue dwarves. The blue dwarves in the area did not expect Tang Tian to suddenly appear. When the illusions covered their heads, They did not even have the chance to escape. The weak bodies of the blue dwarves, in the face of the berserk attack, were like brittle biscuits, powerless to block. Who, the black gold absorbed by the blood furnace, permeated into every part of Tang Tian's body, but the majority was not absorbed. Tang Tian was currently fully focused, every bit of energy in his body was being mobilized by him. The black gold that was deposited in his body also became active. The astonishing amount of energy made him feel as though he was in the middle of a raging ocean. He was at a loss and did not know where to start. His heart skipped a beat. He was experienced and knew the danger of the situation. But for some reason, Xiao Yu felt a sense of desperation. Even after many years, he would not be able to forget this scene. The heavy copper hammer brought about a gust of air, which was enough to crush the blue dwarves' bodies. And for those short swords, as long as they touched them, a part of their body would be removed. Good, let's continue. Just like just now, one more time. Bing did not forget to add, reduce the power by half. Remember, reduce it by half. Like lightning, it landed in another dense group of blue dwarves, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Bing's eyes suddenly lit up with a strange light aura. Sky Tiger and his mind were connected, and suddenly lit up with countless light auras. The energy ball that enveloped Sky Tiger started to revolve slowly. The orange fireball rose up, like an expanding sun, in a moment swallowing countless blue dwarves. The terrifying wave of air was like a hurricane, sweeping across. Those lucky blue dwarves that were not swallowed by the fireball were swept by the wave of air, as though they were struck by wild beasts. Countless of their skinny bodies were sent flying, fresh blood spurting out. Control aura was an essential technique that every military leader had to learn and master, and naturally there was a difference in quality. The current military leaders mostly went through systematic training in the academies, but Bing was not. He had been through the most bitter battles, and his standard of control aura was far from what a normal military leader could compare to. The imposing manner of the blue tide sweeping over caused despair. The villagers' faces all turned white. If not for the victory just now, which gave them some confidence in Bing, they would have long collapsed and turned to leave. That's right, throw them out. The blue dwarves seemed to have awoken from a dream. Their sharp voices came from behind. The blue tide immediately awoke. They started to spread their legs. Like a tide, they rushed towards the village. The blue dwarves' attacks were strong. Their movements were nimble, their defense against energy was also very strong, but their bodies were thin and weak. The impact wave that was not strong could cause fatal damage to them. Once they found their weakness, they could effectively kill the opponent. That's right, Bing said proudly. This is called the bearing of a famous general. I will definitely come and save you. All the villagers stretched their necks, their gazes firmly following the dazzling and gorgeous light arc. No one can stop me. The ground shook as though it was the end of the world. Hey Mengnan, I'll leave the inside line to you. The low and deep explosive sound, like a heavy hammer, caused everyone's heart to jump. The high-speed light cocoon was like a cannonball, dragging a long light tail, drawing an elegant arc, flying towards the densely packed group of blue dwarves. Men and horses fell, flesh and blood splattered. It was as if it was crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Bing, who was in the distance, had always been paying attention to Tang Tian. When he saw Tang Tian's weird fighting method, he could not help but blurt out, "Frog jumping tactics?" Tang Tian suddenly bounced up. He was like a frog, suddenly jumping 15 m away. Looking at the densely packed blue dwarves, he grinned, the centipede hammer in his hand, dancing into a ball of shadows. Bing said to Tang Tian with a hint of ridicule. Little Fool's face turned black. This name made him, the other side of him, feel ashamed. Tang Tian's cheers also pulled everyone's attention back. The way the villagers looked at Bing immediately became different. Tang Tian did not need to worry about the problem of accidentally injuring others, since he was surrounded by enemies. The extremely heavy centipede hammer in his hands was extremely light. The blood furnace continuously strengthened his body. His body was even stronger than before. The surrounding blue dwarves were also stunned. Without waiting for them to react, Tang Tian bounced up again. These blue dwarves were much weaker than the ones they met in the sea of blue light, and the black short spears in their hands, compared to the ice blue tree branches, were like toothpicks. The power was much weaker. Xiao Yu, who climbed up the mud wall with great effort, coincidentally saw the scene, and he was struck by lightning. The boundless blue tide was like a flood, engulfing everything. Big Brother Meng Nan, who was roaring and charging, was alone, so lonely, so overconfident. Definitely. Bang. Again. Tang Tian quickly realized, rushing through the crowd, was actually not efficient, especially when he could not unleash the power of the short swords. The heavy copper hammers swept through the air at high speed, producing a low whistling sound, while the swords tied to the chains swept through the air, producing a high and sharp whistling sound. The two completely different sounds mixed together, creating an extremely frightening scene. Brat, if you realize that the control aura failed, throw it out. The huge mushroom cloud was so dazzling, the surging blue tide, as though it was immobilized, actually had a short moment of stillness. Crane, Ling Su, Big Brother Jing Hao, all of you must persevere. With the charred black hole as the center, it radiated out in all directions. Within a few miles radius, countless of blue corpses were lying on the ground, like harvesting wheat. These blue dwarves were all killed by the shock wave, their internal organs ruptured. There were too many blue dwarves, although Bing had already lost control of his aim, but he still fell into the strange blue sea. Xian's words struck his mind like lightning. As expected of a human-shaped bag of energy. Bing's shout came out from behind again. Tang Tian did not even turn his head, dragging the centipede hammer, and rushed towards the blue tide. The group of blue dwarves was in an uproar. The tragic scene of the explosion was seen by all of them. With just one strike, Bing realized the shock wave's damage to the blue dwarves was much greater than the explosion itself. Not only did he not feel tired, but he felt his body was warm, as though the energy in his body was slowly awakening. If he were to see his own skin, he would definitely be shocked. His skin was as black as ink, with a metallic luster. Bing was extremely confident in his control aura, 146 villagers? So what if it was just a few people's control aura? Tang Tian held onto the centipede hammer, jumped down the mud wall. Without turning his head, he said, "Leave it to me." Chapter 563. But the enemy's reaction was much faster than he expected, and was not as slow as the blue dwarves previously. Bang bang bang. Where? Little Fool suppressed his restless heart. He rushed forward without hesitation. If he could capture the enemy leader, it would be a huge merit, and Master would definitely reward him. Just at that moment, 7 to 8 spears shot towards Little Fool. Although Little Fool could not do what Jing Hao did, to be able to unleash sword laws, but he was after all trained in sword techniques, and his sword techniques were even more outstanding than Crane's. Since he knew that the blue dwarves had good defense against energy, but terrible defense against power, he naturally had his ways. To Little Fool, the scene in front of him was not bloody, but it still gave him a huge shock. Yaya's display of power was out of his expectations. The ocean prison sword in his hand easily dealt with a few blue dwarves that pounced forward, and Little Fool continued to chase. Without the threat of the Empyrean ice tree branch, the power of the blue dwarves was nothing in Little Fool's eyes. A terrifying battle instinct. So sinister. But before Little Fool could react, Yaya screeched and pounced towards the group of blue dwarves. Little Fool's eyes blurred, and he lost sight of Yaya. Little Fool's eyes twitched so fast. And with their tacit understanding, the interval between each attack was greatly reduced, and that was the result of the crazy bombardment. But what happened next caused the ecstasy on his face to freeze. When Little Fool appeared again, his eyes suddenly constricted. The surrounding blue dwarves were obviously much stronger than the cannon fodder, and the pressure on him increased. Chi. Yaya nodded his head resolutely, and even used his hand to gesture at his neck, as though saying, "If I miss this time, I will commit suicide to apologize." The group of blue dwarves' abnormal behavior made Little Fool immediately realize he had caught a big fish. Little Fool clenched his teeth and brought Yaya along. The blue dwarves rarely had an old appearance, and they were all carved from the same mold. The old-looking blue dwarf in front of him was obviously a big figure. And no one noticed that Little Fool was leading Yaya in the army, searching for the enemy's leader. He brought a group of villagers and bombarded the terrifying blue tide. Poo piu piu. Thus, the blue dwarf army was cut in half by Bing. Bing could see it clearly. His firepower to the entire blue tide was undoubtedly a drop in the bucket, but if used well, it could cut off the connection between the front and back. In the blink of an eye, the frontline army that did not receive any reinforcements immediately became riddled with holes, becoming unrecognizable. Suddenly, Yaya gestured in front of her excitedly, her mouth babbling nonstop. Little Fool, however, had a doubtful look on his face. Are you sure? You're not lying to me this time, right? The blue dwarf who was thrusting his spear revealed a look of ecstasy. Yaya's elusive figure that was as fast as lightning had long made him fearful. As he escorted the leader back, he plotted in his heart. He was waiting for the best opportunity. He knew he only had one chance to attack. If he missed, there would definitely not be a second chance. Little Fool's heart was in a mess. He felt that he must have gone crazy to follow Yaya's nonsense. In contrast, the idiot was actually playing a very skillful frog-jumping tactic. Little Fool had an illusion that his intelligence was instantly destroyed. In truth, the speed of the blue dwarves was not slow in Little Fool's eyes, but compared to Yaya, they were not on the same level. Yaya only left a faint afterimage and disappeared. The sharp screams filled his eardrums. After that, Yaya babbled and gestured, saying that he could find the leader of the blue dwarves, and he actually believed it. But Yaya was faster than him. Yaya stepped on the shoulders of the blue dwarves and flew. Its body was petite, and its speed was as fast as lightning. It was extremely difficult for the black spears to hit it. Suddenly, a squeak was heard. Before the blue liquid could splatter, Yaya had already jumped onto another blue dwarf's shoulder and did the same thing. Yaya's small eyes opened wide. The opponent's spear had been prepared for a long time and was as fast as lightning. Yaya could not react in time and could only watch as his body crashed into the opponent's spear tip. Yaya was scared out of his wits. His small face was filled with fear. Yaya was actually so powerful that, at the front of the army, there was Tang Tian the cruel frog, continuously jumping here and there. Every time he jumped, he would leave behind a circular empty space. Little Fool's blink appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Every time he appeared, it would cause a commotion, but before the surrounding blue dwarfs could react, they had already disappeared. He was filled with confidence. Countless of battles in the past had proven, as long as the enemy was pierced by his wooden spear, they would never survive. How did I become like this? The moment he brushed past the black spears, the faint undulation became clearer, causing Little Fool's hair to stand. He was almost certain that the black spears were very dangerous. Without thinking, his body flickered like a ghost and passed through the spears, without blocking. It cheered in its heart, and with force, it stepped on the blue dwarf's shoulder, and like lightning, pounced towards the opponent. The pitch-black spears were also made from tree branches. Little Fool did not know why, but the pitch-black spears seemed to have a faint undulation, causing Little Fool's heart to palpitate. I actually believed in Yaya. Yaya's small face was extremely excited. The old blue dwarf was getting closer and closer to him. The nervousness and fear on the villagers' faces had dissipated, and after working together for so many times, everyone quickly understood the knack of it. These villagers had interacted with energy since young, and were naturally adept at using energy, and with their special physique, it also gave them an extremely strong advantage in terms of using energy. The blue dwarves in Little Fool's field of vision were all being shot in the head at an astonishing speed. After continuous attacks, Bing had already found the best way to deal with the blue dwarves. Every wave of attack was split into 8 light bullets. Every light bullet's power was much smaller, but the 8 light bullets could cover a rectangular area of 500 m long and 100 m wide. No matter how powerful the Fool was and how the blue dwarves were cannon fodder, just relying on the Fool's power, he would definitely not be able to kill all the blue dwarves. This was the main reason why Little Fool agreed to Yaya's suggestion to catch the bandits. first catch the leader, was the best way to deal with the human wave tactic. Yaya suddenly appeared on one of the blue dwarf's shoulders, his small fist smashed onto the blue dwarf's head, bang, the head exploded like a watermelon, countless blue juices splattering everywhere. Alright, I have already used this method a few times, since I am already on the pirate ship, little fool thought helplessly. Following the direction that Yaya pointed, his figure instantly disappeared. Little fool realized, the blue dwarves that were pouncing towards him crazily, suddenly had their heads exploded like watermelons. Little fool could faintly see a shadow flashing past like smoke. Countless delicacies floated past Yaya's eyes, his saliva flowing to the corner of his mouth. The good thing was that the energy here was extremely dense. His blink did not have to worry about not having enough energy. Everyone's energy output was extremely balanced and extremely accurate. To a military leader who was proficient in controlling auras, such a soldier could increase their strength by a few levels. He had already experienced such a situation a few times, and after continuously missing, he naturally could not help but have a question mark. After overcoming their fear, their performance immediately made Bing extremely happy. Just how stupid was I to let myself fall to such a state? Finally, it was his turn. He swept past a few blue dwarves' bodies. The bewitching blue blood blossomed, different from Yaya, who only liked to explode heads. Every time his sword stabbed, it would be fatal, but not the same. Little fool's eyeballs almost dropped to the ground. Little fool, who was not far away, his face changed, his hands and feet turned ice cold. No. Ocean Prison Sword's wrist that was holding the sword lightly shook. A formless ripple suddenly rippled out. There was no energy undulation, just the sword body breaking through the air, forming an air blade. Alright, when Little Fool was prepared to attack, Yaya appeared out of nowhere. His pitiful gaze made Little Fool realize that he was actually unable to reject him. Alright, who asked him to save my life before? A small blacked. It was a jet black spear tip, suddenly appeared in his vision. The opponent was like a venomous snake hiding in the dark, waiting for the opportunity to deal a fatal blow, and this time, the timing was grasped perfectly. The frog jump tactic was not a commonly used tactic. In truth, it was very harsh to use, and needed to fulfill many specific conditions. Even when he was in the Southern Cross Army, Bing did not use it much. Because it was an unconventional tactic, Bing did not teach it to Tang Tian. Very quickly, Little Fool locked onto the oldest-looking blue dwarf in the group. Yaya said, such a large group would definitely have a leader. In a moment, Little Fool got into a fighting stance. Yaya nimbly jumped here and there. If we were to say that Tang Tian was like a cruel frog, then Yaya was like a nimble Iron Fist squirrel. Its size was smaller than the blue dwarf's, allowing it to be even more relaxed. Bing was like that now. To the endless blue tide, every explosion was nothing, but Bing always controlled the area of the explosions to be in the middle of the blue tide. Mine. So when Bing saw Tang Tian using the frog jump tactic without a teacher, and using it here, and the results were extremely outstanding, he naturally looked like he had seen a ghost. The surrounding blue dwarves held onto their wooden spears, pouncing towards Little Fool frantically. Their movements were agile and fast. All the contempt he had just now was immediately swept away. The sacred Saint Galaxy had too many dangers and fatal unknowns. The Ocean Prison Sword in his hands had actually not been used yet. That's right, it was indiscriminate bombing. Following the sound, Little Fool then noticed a group of blue dwarves were retreating in panic. This immediately attracted Little Fool's attention. The blue dwarves were not considered strong, but they were not afraid of death. Advancing wave after wave, Little Fool did not see any scenes of them escaping. Bing regained his senses and shouted loudly, "One more time." Little Fool's eyes twitched, so cruel. He suddenly remembered Yaya had once learned the swallowing light steel fist, although its fist was small, but it was black and hard. Chapter 564. In the next moment, a rumbling explosion came out from afar. Maintain the rhythm just now. He almost turned and ran. The surging blue tide was something that even Precious Bright City was unable to defend against. So, suddenly, Shi Yong's face changed. Listen, what's that sound? Shi Yong swallowed his saliva with difficulty. He did not dare raise his head to look at the mechanical giant in the sky, and carefully went around Red Grass Village. To prevent any misunderstandings, he stayed far away from Red Grass Village. He wanted to see how other people would deal with the blue tide. Who knows, it might be useful when defending Precious Bright City. Protecting the homeland was the Precious Bright Village Regiment's most fundamental mission. If they did not resist and left, how could they face their fellow villagers in the future? Ding! Little Fool's face that was filled with killing intent, his expression became strange. He had seen the power of the thrust. He thought that Yaya would be pierced, but he did not expect that it did not even pierce through his skin and... So powerful! Little Fool did not look as relaxed as he looked. When Ocean Prison Sword and the Black Spear clashed, a thread of sinister black chi had seeped into his Ocean Prison Sword from the tip of the spear, causing the void dark flames to be unable to refine it. Luckily, on top of Ocean Prison Sword, other than the void dark flames, there was also the spirit-devouring flame. He watched carefully. Shi Yong and his group flew with all their might, all of their faces filled with anxiety. No one expected that the blue tide would erupt so ferociously. In the short span of a few days, a few villages had already been submerged by the blue tide. After 10 seconds, he regained his senses, his heart overwhelmed with shock. The spear tip had pierced Yaya's stomach. Even though it was a city, if it was on another planet, it would just be a small town. So fast. He could not imagine what kind of big figure would have the qualifications to own such a beautiful mechanical giant as a mount. Shi Yong only had that word in his mind, but following that, an intense shame surged in his mind. Others were still fighting against the blue tide, and his first thought was to escape. It was too embarrassing. The team members around him had long since turned pale, and their legs were weak. Seeing that, Shi Yong did not care about them, he gathered his courage and headed towards Red Grass Village. None of the blue dwarves were able to get close to him. All of the black spears that were shot at him were concentrated like rain, but in front of the whirlwind, they were like fragile tree branches that crumbled. Yes. Shi Yong responded, and said in a deep voice, "It's not only our red grass planet. The Xia continent also had a blue tide erupt, and it's a few planets erupting at the same time. In the Shang continent, only our red grass planet has it, the other two planets don't." However, he didn't choose to directly enter Red Grass Village. Instead, he circled around it. Wait a minute. Red Grass Planet was simply too barren. Aside from some low-grade materials, there was nothing else. No faction would be interested in this place, let alone occupy it. Even the bandits looked down on this place, so it was easy to imagine. Everyone's faces changed slightly. Shi Yong's expression also changed slightly, and he bellowed, "Go take a look. Red Grass Village is up ahead." Could it be? Shi Yong quivered. The shock the other party gave him was too strong, to the point that he even forgot the most important thing. Blue tide. The biggest possibility of fighting now was the blue tide. Could it be that Red Grass Village encountered a blue tide? What a savage fellow. Well done. Again. In the sky above Red Grass Village, a mechanical giant was floating. Countless of light pillars shot out from every corner of the village and converged on the mechanical giant's body. The dense energy wrapped around it, forming a dazzling halo around it. Even though they were far away, they could still feel the terrifying might. It was tyrannical beyond compare, like a god of war. A muffled sound came out. The plump Yaya was like an extremely elastic ball that was fiercely stabbed by a wooden stick. A powerful force exploded out. Before the fear on Yaya's face could subside, it felt its vision blur. Blue tide. Yaya turned into a small black dot that flew higher and higher. The Shang continent was originally a small continent, and the Red Grass planet was an extremely small planet. The entire planet's population was less than 60,000 people, and they were all scattered around. The Red Grass planet only had a pitiful city, Precious Bright City. Shi Yong's Precious Bright Village Regiment was considered the only armed force of the Red Grass planet. They maintained law and order on a daily basis, and occasionally accepted some missions to earn some money. The Precious Bright Village Regiment was the lowest grade village regiment. Their strength was extremely low, but the entire regiment was made up of locals, and could be considered as fellow villagers. Regarding protecting their homeland, they never frowned. This time, the blue tide had erupted without any warning and was extremely ferocious. Shi Yong felt that his common sense was completely overturned. These country bumpkins, were they actually able to form formations? This must be an illusion. How is that possible? There's a war here. But when his gaze landed on the figure in the middle of the blue tide, he could not help but take in a breath of cold air. That boundless blue ocean was enough to make one despair. In the face of such a vast amount, an individual's strength was so insignificant, so minuscule. The faint colorful spirit devouring flame seemed to have smelled food and pounced forward. Little Fool's eyes flashed with a fierce look. In the next moment, he appeared behind the blue dwarf that stabbed the spear. The blue dwarf's strength was not ordinary. Sensing danger, he swung his black spear backwards, his body following the spear, fiercely thrusting towards Little Fool. It sounds like an explosion. Everywhere it passed, people and horses fell, not a single person survived. It can't be. The smile on his face disappeared. Little Fool's gaze, once again locked onto the old blue dwarf. Yaya had used its beautiful soul-locking parabola to prove that even if it found its target, it would not be easy to succeed. Shi Yong took a deep breath, forced himself to calm down and bellowed, "Let's go take a look." Shi Yong closed his eyes, took a few deep breaths. After calming himself down, he once again opened his eyes and sized up the entire battlefield. No problem. At most, we can organize everyone to retreat to Green Valley or Huili. Shi Yong sighed. I'm afraid the Xia continent is doomed this time. They have 3 planets erupting with the blue tide. I'm afraid it will be more dangerous than disastrous. This blue dwarf stared dumbfoundedly at the disappearing little black dot in the sky. His spear, he had used all his strength and actually did not pierce through this little thing's stomach. When he was nearing Redgrass Village, he felt that the master in the mechanical giant in the sky seemed to glance at him. Shi Yong's body froze, and his mind went blank. The incomparably heavy meteor hammer, in the hands of this person, was as light as a toy, and the short swords were like the blades of a meat grinder. This person's fighting style was even stranger, like a frog jumping and jumping. Every time he landed, there would be screams and wails, and flesh and blood splattered. Wait a minute. This is... Skipped. Everyone was speechless. Just one look was filled with such a terrifying pressure. The mechanical giant waved its hand, and a row of light bullets, dragging a long tail of light, flew far away. Little Fool raised his head to look at the little black dot flying far away, and felt an indescribable sense of joy. This fellow came to this world to be funny, right? The long-prepared stab was full of power. The sharp spear tip instantly pierced into Yaya's plump belly, but the feeling of the spear tip was so unfamiliar. The voice of the master came from far away, and made Shi Yong wake up from his dream. At this time, he noticed that the figures that were enveloped by the light balls were the villagers of Redgrass Village. Little Fool's heart trembled. The sacred Saint Galaxy was indeed strange. But now was not the time to think about this. He had to capture that fellow first. It can't be, we are so unlucky. The members all had bitter looks on their faces. Shi Yong was a small captain of the Precious Bright Village Regiment. He had roamed the world for 2 years, although he was not strong enough and had to return, but in the Precious Bright Village Regiment, he was a true expert. The sword tip and spear tip clashed, sparks flew, but Little Fool did not move an inch. He sneered. The blue dwarf's heart suddenly turned cold. He knew that something was wrong. A sharp pain came from his chest. He was stunned. He lowered his head to look, only to see a black sword tip piercing out from his chest. With the strength of the Precious Bright Village Regiment, they were not even enough to fill the gaps between the blue dwarf's teeth, much less block the blue tide. So strong. This. Captain Shi, is it really that bad this time? One of the members could not help but ask, his face filled with fear. Little Fool's eyes turned cold. His figure suddenly disappeared. Blink. The relationship between the Summer Continent and the Shang Continent was terrible. There were many disputes between them. The Summer Continent was much stronger than the Shang Continent, and for the past few years, Shi Yong and the rest had suffered under the hands of the summer continent. But at this time, no one had the slightest bit of schadenfreude when they heard the news. Shi Yong was dumbstruck. The strength displayed by the mechanical giant was so strong that he had to bow down in worship. He had ventured out before and had seen the higher-ranked commanders. However, no one's strength could be compared to this god of war. From the information he had obtained, although the sacred Saint Galaxy was filled with energy, but it did not have any spirits. To be able to make the spirit-devouring flame so interested, what exactly was that black chi? He had seen all the luxurious mechanical giants before, but in front of the azure-blue mechanical giant that was like a work of art, they were like metal cans that were extremely ugly. The sword tip suddenly disappeared, and he felt the strength in his entire body being sucked out. He fell to the ground and lost consciousness. But, to think that you can stop me with just that bit of strength, you must be dreaming. The other members were startled, and immediately listened attentively. Every time the blue tide erupted, blood would flow like a river. The big continents were still fine, as they were organized properly, and were usually able to resist the blue tide. But to the small continents, it was usually a disaster. Then, the scene in front of him caused his hands and feet to turn cold, and the blood in his face instantly disappeared. Following the release of the light bullets, the light halo around the mechanical giant became much dimmer, and Shi Yong could see it even more clearly, causing his face to change. This. Is this still a stomach? That little thing, what kind of monster is it? An important person. His figure disappeared again. The front of the Blue Dwarf's army was turned into a mess by this person, and was riddled with holes. The incessant explosions were the best footnotes. The man who was like a wild beast had entered a place where no one could stop him. We are just doing our best and leaving it up to the heavens. Let's send a message to everyone. If we can escape, that's one more. Shi Yong sighed. Shi Yong was dumbstruck. Very quickly, they saw Red Grass Village, and the scene in front of them caused them to be stunned. Chapter 565. What's so strange about bringing my home into Ursa Major constellation? It wasn't strange for the Bear King to do even stranger things. Temple. A lioness turning into a sheep? How could he have such a thought? His brain must have been caught in the door. No, it must have been too hard in the previous few battles. Then why did they occupy Wu'an's star? The bald elder questioned, what is there worth occupying? Declaring ownership? They are even willing to send an army. There must be something fishy going on. However, when they heard that Han Bingning had really made a discovery, they were still very excited. Unfortunately, they met Little Fool, a little fool who could teleport. Do you want to declare war on Ursa Major constellation at this time? Do you have money? Xiao ran through him a look of disdain. The four of them would often discuss together, and in the end, one day, Sima Xiangshan, who had the most eccentric ideas, suddenly raised an extremely brazen guess. The zero energy body itself should have a unique ability. Thinking of the warmth from before, a smile suddenly blossomed on her cold, sweaty face. At this time, casualties are meaningless. The four of them had also participated in the energy transformation, and were already on the path of zero energy body. The current zero energy body was mostly using Tang Tian's energy stimulation method. It was to use energy to stimulate the zero energy body, and strengthen the repulsive effect of the zero energy body. Ursa Major constellation's recent movements are very strange. They are consolidating 3 spirit city. We have to pay attention to their movements. A bald elder said. Xiao Ran looked at Axin. The great elder acted as if he didn't see the commotion at all as he continued to speak. Half an hour later, she struggled to get up, took a shower, changed her clothes, and went to the dining room. In order to help everyone cultivate more peacefully, there was a special restaurant here. The food in the restaurant had been meticulously cooked and could effectively nourish one's body. Tang Tian, who was killing excitedly, suddenly realized that the blue dwarves around him were not resisting and stopped. He raised his head and saw Little Fool in the sky, who was holding onto the leader of the other party. He was stunned for a moment and immediately revealed a look of joy. Only with this victory can we wait for reinforcements from the army. Before the army arrives, we can only fight alone. Bing Bing is a little slow this time. Sima Xiangshan giggled. More and more people noticed Little Fool and the old man in the sky. They wailed incessantly and lay on the ground. Axin was stunned for a moment. Shouldn't there be a flying kick at this time? Or would that door-sized sword send him flying? Did this girl change? Yaya crawled out from a deep hole in the ground, his face covered in dirt, his chubby little face filled with anger. He rubbed his stomach. When he saw Little Fool in the sky, he immediately forgot his pain and waved his little hands with all his might. Axin heaved a sigh of relief as he was sent flying by the door-sized greatsword. This was normal. His figure disappeared. Following that, he appeared behind the aged blue dwarf like a ghost. There was only an extremely narrow space, just enough to accommodate Little Fool. Han Bingning wiped her sweat and rested for about 10 minutes before starting a new round of cultivation. The continuous training had pushed her physical strength to the limit, but she gritted her teeth and persevered, her sword moves not messed up at all. In truth, everyone was more optimistic about Han Bingning. The four of them all had different temperaments. Amauri was the most courageous, Sima Xiangshan was the most crafty, Liang Qiu was the most steady, and Han Bingning was the most tranquil, and people with a tranquil heart were the easiest to notice. It was chaos below. The blue dwarves around the old man were all shocked. When one of the blue dwarves saw Little Fool and his leader in the sky, he wailed and laid down on the ground. Everyone, we are destined to be the public enemies of Heaven's Road. Between Heaven's Road and Sacred Saint Galaxy, there can only be one victor. Ever since the last time, Axin seemed to have changed, although he was still as mischievous as before, but Xiao Ran could sense that Axin was different. That's right, eyes. Axin's eyes were no longer covered by layers of mist, but were as bright as the stars, like a regiment of flames, as though something was burning. The three of them spoke in unison. That's right, that's right. When we reach the Sacred Saint Galaxy, we will dress our Xiao Ran up as a fairy. Axin smiled mischievously, without a serious expression. We only need to win. And although the zero-energy body had the repulsive effect and strengthened the physical body, but compared to other blood meridians, the strengthening was not considered a special ability. Weird? But another clan elder retorted. Three Spirit City was originally their base, although Fornax constellation is in their hands, but Three Spirit City is in the Spirit region, so it is more convenient to travel with Libra constellation, and they are cooperating. Everyone was dumbstruck. Sima Xiangshan's thoughts were normal. Almost all blood meridians had special abilities. Sima Xiangshan's thoughts were different. He felt that the zero-energy body was no different from other blood meridians. It definitely had some special ability, just that it had not been unearthed yet. Just like the awakening of blood meridians, there was a high possibility that the zero-energy body required a unique awakening method. Amauri's entire face was buried in his plate of food. His plate was much bigger than others, and he wolfed it down. Liang Qiu smiled at Han Bingning. Finally, they stopped in front of a dark red river. The river was surging, the blood waves rolling. The wide river surface gave people the feeling of being in a sea of blood. In the next moment, Little Fool carried the old blue dwarf and appeared in the sky. The great clan elder said with satisfaction, "Now let us discuss about Leo constellation. I think we cannot let the battle drag on like this. I suggest to release the order for the entire palace to mobilize." You succeeded? Her breathing became more and more hurried, and when she was almost unable to hold on, suddenly a warm intent surged out from her body. The warm intent was extremely minute, but it caused Han Bingning's spirit to be roused. It is a very strange power, you guys see. Sima Xiangshan's idea attracted everyone's interest, as Tang Tian's idea was the main direction of research for the Saint unit. The battlefield was in chaos. The old blue dwarf, under the protection of many guards, was retreating in a panic. The black spear blue dwarf was killed, causing them to sense danger. The spoils of war were their best nourishment. This time, even the great clan elder who was in charge of the meeting could not take it anymore and cut him off. Maybe he remembers old times, maybe he wants to take care of his mother's grave, maybe he wants to take care of his previous principal, Maybe the army will make Tang Tian feel more glorious? Alright, there are many possibilities, but what's so strange about it? It's just returning home in glory. When the guards crossed each other, Little Fool's pupils suddenly constricted, an opening. The bald old man sat down angrily, and did not say a word. That's right, even if Tang Tian was weird in Wu and Star. So what? A group slowly moved forward. The huge battlefield, after a series of wails, fell into a dead silence. The progress was slow, but no one was discouraged. They knew that it was just a bold idea. Sima Xiangshan was startled. Liang Qiu's movement stopped, and he immediately put down his chopsticks. A Maori raised his head from the rice bowl, ignoring the fact that his entire face was covered in food. The other clan elders all nodded their heads. Other than the young lady at the front who was dressed in an eye-catching dark green military uniform, the rest were dressed in gray. The continuous battles had caused everyone to be tired, and the group moved forward silently. Ursa Major Constellation. The bald old man's face was flushed red. He still wanted to argue. Han Bingning used his chopsticks as a sword, his expression solemn. A gray flame quietly extended along his chopsticks. The great clan elder made a hand gesture to stop him. Maybe you are right. But we are powerless against 2 ecliptic palace constellations, or even 3, to provoke that bear at this time, is not rational at all. I believe that you agree with me. The great clan elder's gaze swept across the entire field. His gaze was sharp, and no one dared to look him in the eye. The village in the distance also released earth-shattering cheers. Although my talent is ordinary, but I am not willing to see your back getting further and further away. Anyways, there are so many saints researching on that path. If everyone were to fiddle with this unorthodox path, there would be no loss. In the past few days, the 4 of them had been pondering in this direction, and every mealtime was the fixed time for everyone to discuss. If one were to say that the ancient battlefield was a gray world, then with the Blood River as the boundary, the other side was actually a black world. The black land stretched as far as the eye could see, and it looked eerie and terrifying. But luckily, although they were only left with a quarter, the strength of the spirit generals had a huge improvement. The entire palace was mobilized. Along the way, there were battles every single day, and the spirit general army that they had gathered was constantly shrinking. The current scale was only a quarter of what it used to be, so one could imagine how bitter the journey was. After crossing this river and passing through the burnt puppet desolate lands, we will reach it. Xiao Ran placed her hand on her forehead and gazed into the distance. Bang! She had no strength to climb up, and allowed herself to lie on the ground, feeling the perspiration flowing down her face, feeling her gasping for breath. She stared at the ceiling in a daze. This war has dragged on for too long. We should not hold back. Don't forget the reason why our temple exists. The time is getting closer. The enmity between us and the ecliptic palace constellations cannot be resolved. The reason why they have not made a move is because 20 years ago, we defeated them, and they still have fear towards us, and are still fantasizing about us. If we allow the war to continue on like this, then the other constellations will have less and less restraining fear. At that time, they will be like berserk jackals, and eat us until not even our bones are left, and the plan to conquer Heaven's Road will be completely ruined. Han Bingning carried her plate, walked to the table and sat down. Without saying a word, she suddenly said, I've grasped something. Chia looked at the other side of the river. The light aura blossoming from her beautiful eyes was like the blazing sun, causing people to be unable to look straight at her. The war in the burnt puppet desolate lands would only be more cruel, but she was not afraid at all. Her expression became solemn. Cross the river. Before all the blue dwarfs had regained their senses, Little Fool had already placed his sword on the old blue dwarf's neck. His other hand grabbing onto it, he disappeared at the same time. Blink. The entire place was in an uproar. Chairs fell to the ground. A few of the clan elders stood up, and even more of the clan elders were overwhelmed with shock. In the history of Temple, the number of times it had appeared could be counted with one's fingers. The last time it had appeared was 20 years ago. Shi Yong, who was spectating the battle, could not believe his own eyes. Was that victory? The uproar disappeared, and the entire place became silent. With a plop, she fell down. Xian and Xiao Man retracted the playful look on their faces, their hearts trembled, and they replied in unison, yes. The forever unchanging scenery was desolate and desolate, but the ancient sounds of killing did not seem to have left, and only continued to wail in the wind. Maori, Liang Qiu and Sima Xiangshan were already there waiting for her. The four of them came from the same place, and had great teamwork and trust in each other. No one noticed the gap. Chapter 566. Ling Su and the other two were touched. Without saying anything, they quickly retreated. And in Red Grass Village, Bing was already organizing the villagers, preparing to retreat. Suddenly, a wail came from outside. Did they really win? The villagers, Shi Yong and the rest, were all scared pale, their calves and stomachs were trembling. What kind of weird thing are the blue dwarves? Bing glanced at Tang Tian, his heart muttering, could crazy Tang be so ugly? Don't we just get used to it? Everyone looked at him silently. The villager shook his head. I don't know, Xiao, you brought it. Everyone else was dumbstruck. If they could not win, they could just run. Yes, yes, yes. Shi Yong nodded his head. This battle record, if taken out, would definitely scare people to death. Sigh, even I find it familiar, I can't wait to go up and kill it. Right. Little fool said coldly. Shi Yong did not know what a big shot was, but these people made him feel reverence that came from the bottom of his heart. To be able to repel the blue tide with just a few people. No, looking at the densely packed village, the endless sea of blue dwarves, Shi Yong felt as though he was stepping on cotton. It was slightly soft. Shi Yong took the chance to whisper, what is the background of this benefactor? Do you want me to inform them? The villager thought for a while and asked. The other members all nodded their heads, their faces full of envy. They were truly envious. Don't look at how the precious Bright Village Regiment was the only armed force of Redgrass Planet. Their best battle record was only fighting with the assholes of the Summer Continent and not retreating. Compared to the glorious battle record of Redgrass Village, it was simply too inferior, it was too embarrassing. Thank you, Leader Shi. This time we have met a benefactor. Ha, this battle is really satisfying. This old man's life is worth it. The villager was beaming with joy. Upon saying that, Tang Tian knew it was not good. Wasn't he exposed? He was just stalling for time. He had to use everything he could. Victory? They came so quickly. The killing intent of the huge army seemed to have materialized, like a raging wave pouncing over. At this moment, the leader of the group of blue dwarves suddenly stared at Tang Tian's face. His expression changed, and he blurted out, "Intruder!" The blue dwarf elder's head tilted to one side, his breathing stopped, his face was filled with shock and fear. In the distance, Bing's face also changed. Such a strict formation was definitely something only an army that was adept in battle formations could achieve. It was a beautiful move, but at the same time, it also made Bing understand that he was in deep trouble. The blue dwarves did not think that someone would dare to stop them, and when they were almost in front of Tang Tian, they suddenly stopped. Crazy! Why was he always looking for someone to provoke? The precious Bright Village Regiment was the only armed force of the Redgrass Planet, and all the important matters were handled by them. In the eyes of the villagers, the precious Bright Village Regiment was the true ruler of Redgrass Planet. Shi Yong was a backbone, and in the eyes of the villagers, he was a big figure. The voice came from afar, causing everyone's face to change. Only Tang Tian remained indifferent. Suddenly, the blue dwarf elder saw Tang Tian's face, and his face immediately changed, his entire body trembled, and he screamed, "Intruder! Intruder!" Let's first think about what to do with the blue dwarves outside. Bing felt his head hurting. It was not easy to capture the other party's leader, and wanted to interrogate him for some information, for example if he had seen Jing Hao and the rest, or the distribution of the blue dwarves' world, but before he could say anything he was already scared to death. Many of the villagers were so scared that they sat paralyzed on the ground. Everyone was shocked and immediately rushed out. The scene in front of them caused everyone's face to change, their backs turning cold. Tang Tian dragged the long centipede hammer and stared at the blue tide in front of him. What exactly is going on? We are here to inform you, but we did not expect to see such a huge victory. The smile on Shi Yong's face was somewhat unnatural. He kept feeling the cold at the back of his neck, the cold sweat on his back uncontrollably flowed out. Could it be that his thoughts were discovered by the other party? They had just experienced a bitter battle, and although they had obtained victory, but everyone's physical strength was at its limit. If not for Little Fool's strange move, the battle would have continued on, and the ones who could not hold on would definitely be the villagers. Because there were too many blue dwarves and they could not kill them all. At the end of their vision, a smear of blue appeared again. The group of blue dwarves were astonishing in numbers. Like a tide that covered the mountains and covered the plains, they rushed forward. Little Fool and Bing's face changed. This group of blue dwarves were of a higher grade than the ones they had eliminated. Be careful! There are blue dwarves behind! Ling Su shouted. His body was still weak. The blue dwarf elder's eyes were filled with fear. He was trembling to the point that he could not speak, his face becoming whiter and whiter. That feeling was like a crazy wave rushing over. Without any warning, it stopped right in front of him. Tang Tian's heart thumped once again. The ice blue tree branch was not in a good state. No wonder Ling Su and the rest were in such a difficult situation. Tang Tian's heart was beating like a drum. It was the second time that Tang Tian heard that word. He who was originally extremely nervous blurted out, "What is that?" The blue dwarf leader was dead and left behind a thorny problem. That was, what about the group of blue dwarves lying on the ground outside? Previously, Bing already felt that this problem was thorny. Now that the other party's leader was dead, it became even more thorny. Tang Tian's heart jumped. His intuition was extremely sensitive. The dense killing intent caused all the hairs on his body to stand, his back perspiring profusely. He stabilized himself, mentally prepared himself. Upon seeing that the situation was not right, he would run. Who knew, after winning, there would be another wave of blue tide. He had already secretly instructed Little Fool to prepare to teleport. What do we do now? Tang Tian spread his hands. He was rarely at a loss. Tang Tian did not forget to add another sentence in his heart, and shouted, "All of you quickly go to the back. I will block them for a while." The blue dwarves who were originally lying on the ground all wailed. Their bodies were like blue ice cubes under the blazing sun, melting at a speed visible to the naked eye. The three of them looked to be in a difficult situation. All of their clothes were torn, their expressions were extremely tired. It was obvious that they had gone through a tough battle. The three of them saw Tang Tian and the rest, and could not help but reveal joy on their faces. Compared to killing their way into the blue dwarves' main camp, this wave of blue tide was nothing. Tang Tun actually scared the leader of the blue dwarves to death. Xiao Yu? Shi Yong was startled. He knew Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu was rather famous in Redgrass Planet. He was born with a handicap and was unable to use energy, which was an extremely rare situation. In addition, although Xiao Yu was unable to use energy, he was very motivated. He learned a lot of miscellaneous methods, and even went to dig up the red reed's pith to supplement his family's expenses. For a 12-year-old child to be able to do this, everyone still felt pity in their hearts. Red Grass Village. This was an extremely ordinary village, and there were many villages with this name on Redgrass Planet. It was an extremely remote village, extremely ordinary, and did not have any special characteristics. Tang Tian's mouth was wide open, his face stunned as he looked at the empty ground in front of him and the blue tide that had disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. Bing, who was organizing the retreat behind him, was dumbfounded. Xiao Er, who was preparing to teleport to save Tang Tian's life, was dumbfounded. Ling Su was dumbfounded. Crane was dumbfounded. Jing Hao was dumbfounded. Everyone was dumbfounded. They had to put up an act and drag for time. Inside a house in the village, Tang Tian and the rest were in trouble. In the blink of an eye, all the blue dwarves had become a pool of blue liquid, and the blue liquid quickly seeped into the ground. Tang Tian was not afraid at all. On the contrary, his heart was brimming with joy. Everyone was able to gather. That was truly great. Previously, he was prepared to kill his way into the blue dwarves' main camp to search for Ling Su and the rest, but now that everyone was safe and sound, what could be happier than that? Shi Yong was at a loss. The blue tide would occur from time to time in the sacred Saint Galaxy, and at times of high frequency, they were no different from earthquakes, landslides, and floods. Only the big cities were able to defend against the blue tide, and the red grass planet had experienced 4 large-scale blue tides, and every time, the final outcome was that everyone had to evacuate. What did I do to him? Tang Tian turned to ask everyone with a blank face. He was completely unclear of the situation. Yaya nodded his head subconsciously, and when it reacted, its small face turned white, and it shook its head like a rattle drum, the fat on its cheeks like waves. Tang Tian was dumbfounded. Captain Sure, why are you here? A villager greeted uneasily. It was so strange that Tang Tian felt a chill run down his spine. The blue dwarves that covered the entire mountain and plains, just like that, disappeared like snow. As far as the eye could see, the ground outside the village was a strange blue color. Only the scattered black wooden spears and javelins on the ground proved that the strange scene just now was not a dream. Tang Tian felt that in his entire life, there was never a moment where the pressure was greater than now. Although his expression was calm, his mind was always focused on Ling Su and the rest. As long as they met up with Bing, it would be time for them to retreat. This. Shi Yong was suspicious. The surrounding troops did not dare to make a sound. In the past when they came to Red Grass Village, they did not feel that the pressure here was low. Standing alone in the wind, Tang Tian was at a loss. Until they entered Red Grass Village, Shi Yong and his teammates were still in a daze. Damn it, Ling Su and the rest. This team of blue dwarves had a much stricter formation and seemed to have the aura of an army. Tang Tian's gaze landed on the tree branches in the hands of the blue dwarves, and his heart thumped. It was the ice-blue tree branches that they met in the sea of blue light. Suddenly, Tang Tian's gaze congealed. A black dot appeared in the distance. The black dot's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it had flown close. Upon seeing who it was, Tang Tian became excited and immediately rushed out. As expected, they were stronger than before. This scene was too strange. But before he could react, the strict formation of the blue dwarves' army in front of him was retreating at a speed that was several times faster than before. Even the blue dwarves were subservient to them. This big figure, Shi Yong did not dare to think about it. In any case, he was sure they were definitely not people they could afford to offend, and definitely not the Shang continent. Oh, the summer continent definitely could not afford to offend them. But holding back the blue dwarves was more important. Tang Tian slowly waved his centipede hammer, squinting his eyes. He had the demeanor of an expert. It's these big figures. Shi Yong broke out in cold sweat. Oh God, I actually had such a dangerous thought. It's too scary. Stop. Although the intonation was strange, but everyone could understand. Tang Tian was surprised. He pointed at his own nose. You know me? The few of them looked at each other. Such a professional skill, no one present knew it. But very quickly, the 3 of them had anxious looks on their faces. He was scared to death. Who knows how to extort a confession? Hey, don't tell me he's scared to death. Tang Tian anxiously said, I haven't asked anything yet. Shi Yong quivered and shook his head. No need, we just have to wait here, we just have to wait. The villager was extremely pleased. He was grinning from ear to ear. Everyone looked at each other, seeing the shock in each other's eyes. The only reasonable explanation. Bing nodded his head in agreement. Chapter 567. Babla, cheer up. Although you are just my temporary servant, but I do not need a listless trash. Until this time, when he suddenly heard his boss shout, intruder, his muddle-headed mind seemed to have been struck by lightning. Countless of dusty past events immediately drowned him. Don't look down on yourself, Barbara. Shi Yong's blank mind slowly recovered. He greedily breathed in the fresh air. After going through death's door, the feeling was different. Little Fool immediately activated the spirit-devouring flame to sweep the area. Bing then urged Tang Tian softly, this is a good chance. No matter what, we have to grab hold of the Shang continent. We only need to accumulate a certain amount of power, and then we can open the passage between Heaven's Road and the sacred Saint Galaxy. As long as we defeat the blue tide, Your reputation will be unparalleled, and no one will be able to shake it. If it was previously, the blue tide would still make people worry, but aren't you now holding the title of an intruder? This is a matter of small capital and huge profits. Suddenly, Little Fool thought about Crane. Crane's body would sometimes release a similar chi. The two of them looked at each other and rushed out, only to see a short and skinny blue dwarf waving the wooden rod in his hand. At the end of the rod was a white cloth. This is definitely a good chance. There are still many places in the Shang continent that are experiencing the blue tide. I asked them. They do not have enough power to defend against it at this time. We need a hero to stand up and turn the tide. Shi Yong heard a few words and was chased to the side by Bing. Intruder! Tang Tian muttered. Come in and talk. Tang Tian was expressionless and took the lead. That asshole. Wait a minute. The spirit-devouring flame had an undetectable black color. Closing his eyes to feel it, Little Fool could not hide the joy on his face. For some reason, his quiet heart suddenly became lively, his originally gloomy life suddenly became lively, and the entire world seemed to be different. Most of the savages lived in tribes, and that was one of the reasons why other continents thought that the savage continent was barbaric and primitive. Looks like it's not bad. Your injuries are not serious, you don't need to waste my medicine, this thing is very expensive. The spirit-devouring flame's ability to devour martial spirits was extremely outstanding. This wisp of black light was sucked into the spirit-devouring flame, but was not completely absorbed. This wisp of black light was different from the various martial souls that Little Fool had seen before, but it contained an extremely obscure and ancient aura. Little Fool flew to the area where the blue dwarves had melted, and there were many wooden spears and javelins scattered around. Little Fool picked up a black javelin. This kind of black javelin gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. However, Little Fool raised his eyebrow and released the soul-devouring flame, which lunged at Black Spear like a shark that smelled blood. The spirit-devouring flame was like an agile snake wrapping around the spear. After a moment, the spear lost all its luster, and it fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. For two blue dwarf leaders to call out, intruder, it was definitely not a coincidence. The short and skinny Barbara tightly clenched his fists, his body trembling uncontrollably. It was as if something within his body was awakening. Was it curiosity towards this world? Was it the yearning that was buried deep in the heart? Is it that figure in my memory that I can't erase? Was it the encouragement that sounded out in my mind? Barbara's nose suddenly turned sour, tears welling up in his eyes. Master, I have disappointed you. I did not become the hero of the blue dwarves. Mengnan, this name was very fitting of the savage continent style. Every time the other blue dwarves talked about the master, he would be extremely proud. Shi Yong nodded his head in his heart. Well said, at such a time, there is nothing more reliable than a hero. Hero, hurry up and go. No one knew that the master that he was once loyal to was actually the intruder that caused the entire blue dwarf world to tremble. How was he captured by the master in the past, and how was he able to help the master cross the blue sea and enter the sacred Saint Galaxy? He initially thought that he would definitely be silenced, but who knew that the master would actually let him go? The more he looked at Barbara, the more he felt that it was the master. He was extremely excited. Master's descendant, young master. He initially thought that his days would be spent in a daze, occasionally going to the sacred Saint Galaxy to fight for territories, as long as he watched the large group go. Although the various continents looked down on the savage continent, and looked down on its barbaric nature, but no one doubted the savage continent's strength. The savage continent's territory was vast, with countless planets, although most of them were barren and had harsh environments, but it also tempered the savage continent's strong fighting capabilities. He was filled with nostalgia for that period of time. And there is one more important point, the materials here do not have any martial spirits. To a mechanical army, it is extremely important. Sai Lei's research on spirit gold is not going well. Spirit gold's energy conductivity is very high, but it is too soft, so Sai Lei plans to use it to create meridians for mechanical spirit weapons. The metals here do not have martial spirits, and are even more suitable for smelting and forging, and there is a high possibility of researching new metal formulas. Sai Lei can definitely create even stronger mechanical spirit weapons, and this brand new mechanical spirit weapon will completely topple the previous theories. The mechanical spirit weapon will become the extension of the meridians in the human body, and with the assistance of the martial spirit of the spirit weapon, it can form a new cycle during training. With that, it means that the mechanical spirit weapon can evolve. You have had enough of this muddle-headed life, right? Bing composed himself and continued, if we are able to open up the pathway between the two, we will be invincible, because we can attack the enemy from behind at any time. Barbara's heart jumped. Seems like the young master's mood is not good. That's right. Bing said softly, the saints here are very common, but compared to the saints in Heaven's Road, they all have their own strengths. The saints in Heaven's Road have fine control over energy, and are far from what the saints here can compare to, and their understanding of laws is also stronger in Heaven's Road. The energy here is too abundant, to the point that they do not need to understand it too deeply. But in terms of energy, they are much stronger, and although their fine control is not as good as the saints in Heaven's Road, but they are more familiar with energy, as long as they do not control it meticulously, they can complete it well, and are extremely good materials for an army. Of course, we have never seen a true martial artist from this region, and our judgment might not be accurate. In his blurry vision, the figure in his memories overlapped. Barbara could no longer hold back his tears, and they flowed out. Oh my God, what did I just see? A blue dwarf waving a white flag? Could it be? Barbara suddenly remembered that the master had once unintentionally mentioned that he had a son. So when Boss exclaimed, he quivered and immediately took a look. 15 to 16 years had passed. Could it be that master had returned? This chi. Although the chi was extremely thin, it was of a very high grade, and with the current spirit-devouring flames ability, it was actually unable to completely absorb it. But little fool knew that the black aura was definitely nourishing medicine for the spirit-devouring flame. Blue dwarf servant. This made Barbara feel pleased. Those fellows definitely did not know that he had once helped Master, and was Master's most loyal follower. When he extended his neck and looked at it for the first time, he was shocked. It really was Master. But when he looked carefully, he realized that in some places he was young, too young. It was as though Master was many years younger. The blue dwarf walked to Tang Tian and bowed respectfully. Brave young master, I am called Barbara. I am master, and also your father's servant. I have no ill intentions. Barbara was sad for a long time. The next 10 years were extremely boring in his eyes, and he was not interested in anything. You are not a coward, Barbara. The jet black javelin was obviously made from some kind of tree branch, and the javelin had an extremely faint chi lingering around it. Go back, Barbara, you will definitely become the hero of the blue dwarves. Do not attack. Bing spoke passionately. Everyone was startled. You did well, Barbara. Those are blue dwarves. He sneaked a glance at Tang Tian. The young man who was extremely young was actually the leader of the group. It was not easy to be the leader of a group. If not for his ability being outstanding, then he must have a respectable identity. Shi Yong naturally leaned towards the latter, a respectable identity. Could it be that he was the son of a tribe leader in the savage continent? Inside the village, Shi Yong carefully stood at the side, listening to the quarrels of the important people. Tang Tian and the rest were extremely eye-catching amongst the group of people. I am still unable to forget the past, right? Barbara was the most ordinary blue dwarf. He did not have any outstanding points, and in the group he was not eye-catching at all. His strength was low, and was always bullied by others, but his character was slick and knew how to curry favor, so he lived well. Just at that moment, there was a commotion outside. He was originally not a diligent person, and after experiencing those hair-raising days, the other blue dwarves were like trash in his eyes. In truth, the adults were easy to get along with, and Barbara missed them. Everyone looked at each other, but no one made a move. With so many people here, one blue dwarf was nothing to them. His companions all ran back with all their might. Barbara stretched his neck and looked back. The terrifying blue tide in the eyes of others was something that they could not avoid, but in Bing's eyes, it was a huge opportunity. And the changes in the blue dwarves allowed him to acutely find a way to make use of it. Although the victory came out of nowhere, but in any case, it was a victory, and everyone who was tensed up to the extreme finally relaxed, and all sat down on the ground. Barbara immediately became excited. The more he looked at him, the more he felt that he was similar, just that the young man in front of him was even more heroic and even more untamed. In the history of the blue dwarves, there had never been a person who brought them such a huge trauma and fear. Even after so many years, the scars were still as clear as ever. The blue dwarves worshipped the strong, and Barbara knew, inside the blue dwarves, there were many high and mighty elites that secretly worshipped the master. Tang Tian's heart palpitated with excitement. "You are saying to pull the Ursa Major Constellation's army over?" Hearing that, Tang Tian was fascinated. Bing was also filled with anticipation. He could not imagine how strong such a mechanical spirit weapon would be. Tang Tian felt that Uncle Bing was right. If they had a stronghold in the sacred Saint Galaxy, it would be extremely beneficial. Red Grass Village. The only thing that made Barbara unhappy was that when he begged the master to bring him away, he was rejected. The man did not bring him away, and left alone. Chapter 568. Barbara was overjoyed. "Thank you, young master." As for control, who cared? "How many people are there in the Shang continent?" Tang Tian asked Shi Yong. Such a powerful and terrifying attack, but it did not shatter, immediately attracting Little Fool's attention. He suddenly understood why his mother had never said anything bad about that man. An arrogant man who overestimates himself, he is not even comparable to a mediocre general. Barbara was unconvinced. The Black Order army has 20,000 men. "If that's the case, you can follow me." Tang Tian interrupted Barbara's words. "You are just a frog in a well, you have no qualifications to point your fingers." When he was collecting the spoils of war, he suddenly realized that the black stones did not break much. Especially around the crater created by Bing's first attack, although the black stones were distorted, but not many of them broke. Poker face. Needless to say, everyone immediately understood the value of the barren land. The black gold's properties were outstanding, but it was a pity that there were too few of them. The barren land in front of them was endless, and there were countless of black stones, enough to refine enough black gold, that meant that they could create the Black Gold series of mechanical spirit weapons. Shi Yong was truly excited, especially when the master said that there was a possibility of staying in the Shang continent. He was extremely excited. To the Shang continent, it was the best opportunity. Why so little? Crane was curious. In Heaven's Road, any random planet would have a population of over 10 million. It was extremely common. For a planet to only have a few tens of thousands of people made him feel surprised. If the Shang continent were to let go of this thigh that was as thick as an elephant, they would definitely be struck by lightning. 6. That means at least 12,000 people. If they are stronger, then 10,000 should be enough. Tang Tian muttered to himself, "To counterattack the blue world, I need to count a bit more, 20,000 people, that should be enough." Master actually wants to counterattack the blue world. Isn't that too much of a joke? The entire blue world crawled under his feet and trembled. At that time, someone in the city suddenly shouted that an intruder was coming. The entire city, young and old, ran for their lives, leaving only an empty city. All the heroes were crying out, who could stop him? That person must be fighting for his own ideals. He must also have a reason to fight. His heart must be filled with longing. He must also be longing for victory and longing to return home. He thought about Chia, thought about everyone, thought about Ursa Major Constellation, and his dazed eyes slowly regained their focus. Yes, that person had his reasons to fight, and he also had his reasons to fight. Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at the two people arguing fiercely. The development of the situation was completely beyond everyone's expectations. But very quickly, everyone started to relax. Crane found a chair to sit down and watch with relish. Jing Hao held on to Drunk on Saint Blood and Beat the Beat, while Ling Su stood beside the two of them and started to practice his techniques. Bing muttered, The standard of the villagers, 2,000 people, grooming them for a year should not be a problem. It would be best to occupy the Xia continent as well. Bing suggested, if that's the case, choosing 20,000 out of 5 million people is not bad. Everyone looked at each other. They finally realized that they had neglected the most important issue, and that was money. They had no money. You can't move a single step without money. Shi Yong thought he had heard wrongly. Wait a minute, what did Master say? Counterattack the Blue World? At that time, Army Commander Bai Ling was a very powerful person. This matter immediately caused a stir in the Blue World. Our place is called the Blue World, and the Blue Sea is only a part of it. At that time, the 6 strongest experts in the clan came, and the 6 of them wanted to persuade him to surrender, but they did not expect that the master would not even bother to greet them, and without saying a word, he immediately started fighting. Both sides fought for an entire day and night. Out of the 6 experts, 4 were killed by master, and the other 2 escaped with injuries. This time, the entire Blue World was completely shocked. Tang Tian was startled. He immediately gathered everyone and ran to the desolate beach. I must definitely make the master stay. That person did not do it, so I will change everything myself. Tang Tian secretly clenched his fists. So little. So little. Bing scratched his chin and smacked his lips. Tang Tian was slightly distracted. He did not know what he was feeling. That person's figure, in his mind, was just a blurry figure. To choose 20,000 out of 300,000 people, that should be pretty good. Tang Tian muttered to himself. Walking to this point, he wanted to fight for himself, for the people he loved. Blue-skinned short. At this time, he no longer needed to think about the problem of occupying the Shang continent, such a precious resource. He definitely could not hand it over to others. Tang Tian was startled, Bing was startled, Crane was also startled. The room suddenly fell into a dead silence. The precious Bright Village Regiment salary was pitifully low. If someone were to give them a salary of 200 cloud coins a month, most probably the entire regiment would swarm over to work. Your boasting attitude is extremely irresponsible to the young master. Barbara flew into a rage. Even the elite armies are unable to handle the Black Order army. 2,000 villagers? Poker face, are you joking? Shi Yong's heart trembled, cold sweat started to form uncontrollably, and his legs became weak. His Excellency was indeed His Excellency. This kind of bearing, it was as though the Xia continent was like their own backyard in their eyes. All of the haze was swept away. Tang Tian felt his entire body brimming with energy. Tang Tian asked Bing, "You've seen the Black Order army before, is it difficult to defeat them?" No matter what, they could not sit and watch Heaven's Road be conquered by the sacred Saint Galaxy, because that was their home, their life, and their future. Is Master crazy? But as he learned more and more, he slowly understood some things. Stop! Tang Tian bellowed, and the 2 of them stopped, but they were still glaring at each other. Little Fool then took out the honorable Martial Cauldron, and smelted a black rock, and obtained the black gold that they had collected in the Sea of Rocks. It was a place that even bandits would not visit, it was obvious. To fight one-on-one with the Blue Dwarves, Tang Tian was not afraid at all. He waved his hand. Oh, then we don't have to care about them. The army that Barbara was in just now, what army was it? How many of such armies are there in the Blue World? Little Fool flew to the front of Tang Tian, and said softly, "The black rocks in this barren land have black gold inside." Barbara was beaming with joy as he spoke, his expression excited. The Shang continent was barren and desolate. They did not have any products, the population was sparse, and everyone was extremely poor. Since Master is willing to stay here, then you must definitely develop the Shang continent. The sacred Saint Galaxy is the same. Shi Yong felt his face cramping up. Shi Yong immediately became excited to merge the Summer continent into the Shang continent. It was something that the Shang continent dared not even dream of. Barbara said arrogantly, "The Black Order army is one of the most elite armies in the Blue World. The Blue World has 6 big orders, and are the 6 most elite armies." Wait a minute, salary? Shi Yong was filled with anticipation. If the salary was more than 200 cloud coins, he would definitely go. That's true. Crane nodded his head in agreement. Hearing the first half of the sentence, Shi Yong was ecstatic. He had a premonition that the Shang continent was about to welcome a new life. The second half of the sentence made him even more in awe. Listen to it, how tyrannical. In this era, who dared to say that they had solved the problem of the blue tide? Out of all the arrogant people in the summer continent, who would dare to boast about it? That was tyrannical. Countless experts advanced wave after wave, but like moths flying into a flame, they were all killed by Master. Until now, 10 years have passed, and the blue world's vitality has not recovered. Everyone felt that they still needed to use armies to deal with Master, so they sent out 4 armies to encircle and annihilate Master, but they were constantly attacked and defeated by Master. Of course, Barbara's credit is also in this. Barbara's mind was roused. He knew that it was time for him to perform. He thought for a moment and said, "This place is too poor, there are no benefits, the powerful armies are not interested, so there will not be any large armies. Furthermore, the news of young Master being here will quickly spread to the surrounding armies, and I reckon no one will dare to come here. But after a period of time, the experts who receive the news will most likely come to challenge young Master. There are many ambitious people in the blue world. If they were to defeat young Master, they will become famous in one battle, and many people will be attracted to you. This place is too desolate, no one is willing to come here." Shi Yong explained. The population of the summer continent is much more. There are 1.2 million people. It really is black gold. Bing's tone was filled with surprise. No wonder it is so hard. Sai Lei will definitely be happy to the point of going crazy. Master is called an intruder. That was the reason why he barged into the Blue Sea. Master's first battle shocked the Blue Sea. He relied on his own strength to fight against the Blue Hand Bai Ling army. The Bai Ling army is one of the most elite armies in the tribe. Every time they fight in the Blue Tide, they once captured the capital of the Western continent. They are extremely powerful. But in front of Master, they are not enough. Master chopped the vegetables. That scene was truly a river of blood. The commander of the Bai Ling army was also beheaded by Master. Crane and the rest looked at each other. The number was still very little. A few of the quick-witted ones, like Little Fool, were already thinking, the sacred Saint Galaxy's population was so small, there must be a deeper reason. Bing glanced at Barbara. "I know." When Tang Tian walked out of the room, he saw Shi Yong being tricked by Bing. His face was filled with excitement. "Then let's merge the summer continent into the Shang continent." Tang Tian nodded his head. "Let's first pick a portion of people." He was just a small captain of the precious Bright Village Regiment. How could he have experienced such a battle? But a small fry also had their own intelligence. He probed. "Master, what are the criteria for selection? And about that, what is the approximate standard of salary?" "Barbara, tell us about the Blue Tide." Tang Tian turned and asked. Shi Yong quivered, regaining his senses. 3 planets, a total of 300,000 people. Tang Tian immediately decided, the Shang continent is very important to us. We want to build a city here, but first, we have to solve the problem of the Blue Tide. Shi Yong's face was filled with disbelief. The Blue Tide had erupted for so many years, but no one had ever thought of attacking the blue world. The number of blue dwarves was truly too large, to the point that it made people feel despair. Bing's face turned black. He bent down and said coldly, "Little shorty, I have fought in more battles than you have eaten. Do I need you to teach me how to fight?" Thinking about it made him go crazy. Chapter 569. In history, the pontoon bridge in the Sea of Light had always been built by piling up human lives. Every time it was built, less than 1 out of 10 people would be conscripted. Furthermore, they did not conscript the local people of the vast star continent, but came to the Shang continent, which meant that they did not care about the life and death of the Shang continent. Begin. Aston water, it was a type of weak poison, and was the product of Lady Mu's research. Its poison was extremely weak, and was the best liquid that everyone had found to dissolve the black gold. After sending a basket of black rocks to Old Man Fei, who was in the Blood Meridian's laboratory, He said that it was an urgent matter, and Little Fool did not care anymore. "All right, straighten up, straighten up," Tang Tian shouted. Suddenly, Shirsen, who was beside him, stopped in his tracks, his breathing becoming disorderly. From this, it could be seen how powerful the Pisces spray pot was. If it was just Little Fool's control, he would not be able to cause the mist to be so small, and still be able to permeate it so evenly. No one dared to think about it. Little Fool held onto a silver spray pot. The shape of the spray pot was extremely unique. There were two fish tails intertwining, and the two fish mouths were the spouts of the spray pot, each extending to one side. Tang Tian had asked Xiaoyu before, but Xiaoyu did not know what the black rocks were called, and only knew that they were difficult to refine. But he was too weak and did not know much, so he did not think too much about it. In the entire Shang continent, there were not many people who were proficient in refining weapons, and no one would come to such a desolate place for no reason. The villagers of Red Grass Village knew that the black rocks were hard, and thus used them to build houses. Tang Tian bellowed. The few of them moved like lightning, gathering all of their strength. A few heavy hammers accurately smashed onto the top of the black stone pillar. "Are you ready? The rest of you spread out." After that, they found out that the Pisces spray pot was a life-type star treasure. The black stone pillars sank down by 30 m before everyone stopped. All of them were perspiring profusely. Such physical labor was not something any saint could do. Shi Yong had helped a lot. He had found many blueprints of strongholds, although they were all ordinary goods. But to Sai Lei, who was proficient in warfare and a mechanical grandmaster engineer, it was enough. Red Grass Village was truly too small, and their defenses were too weak. Xiaoyu looked at the Pisces spray pot in Little Fool's hands curiously. The sparkling silver spray pot was both beautiful and powerful. Xiaoyu was filled with curiosity as to how to combine these black stones into one. As for the materials, they were the inexhaustible black stones on the barren beach. Whether it was in terms of hardness or energy resistance, the black stone was extremely outstanding. The only problem was that it was extremely difficult for these black stones to fuse together. Making money was a worldwide problem, and it was the same in the New World. Furthermore, the Shang continent was desolate and backward, and was extremely poor. If one wanted to earn money, they had to leave the place. Another group of villagers began to pour black stones into the grass net, and the black stones piled up continuously. When the pile reached 400 feet, it stopped. The ground was also covered with a thick layer of black stones. Every day, Tang Tian and the others made new discoveries. There were too many unfamiliar things here. "So annoying, even ghosts know how to be straight," Ling Su said impatiently. As Tang Tian shouted the chant, the thick rope stretched taut, and the black stone pillar with a diameter of 50 feet and a length of 55 feet slowly straightened up. The surrounding villagers all looked on curiously and in shock. The black stone pillar in front of them was a single entity, although it was covered with veined patterns. But when such a gigantic object was erected in front of them, it was still shocking. Wang Xian sighed in his heart, but on his face, he helplessly smiled. "I hope that Mr. Shi can guide me along." The black stone pillar sunk down bit by bit, like a nail, continuously being hammered into the ground. Such a shocking scene caused the villagers to be dumbstruck. A few of them had a heavy hammer in their hands. Being Sky Tiger's bronze hammer was the most terrifying. It was as tall as Sky Tiger, causing people to feel a chill down their spines. The density of the black stones was extremely high and extremely heavy. The weight of the black stone pillar could be imagined. Even for Tang Tian, who was known for his strength, he was unable to move it at all. Upon hearing that it was extremely urgent, without saying a word, Old Man Fei gathered all the elites of the Blood Meridian's laboratory to tackle the problem. Although Little Fool was an expert in refining spirit treasures, but his understanding of blood meridians was lacking compared to the blood meridian specialists. If he were to fumble around blindly, then it would require a long time. With Senior Gui Wu's explanation, Old Man Fei and the rest quickly found a suitable blood meridian. Pisces constellation, silver treasure, Pisces spray bottle. Little Fool started to spray Aston water, and the black stones on the ground and the grass net quickly melted, merging into one. The 6 black stone pillars started to weave the grass net, and repeated the process. On top of every black stone pillar, there was a tall pointed tower, like 6 sharp swords, pointing towards the sky. But now, it could be perfectly realized. Xianxia does not dare. Wang Xianxia's heart secretly cried out. The other party's background was huge, and he did not dare to reject. Thinking about Shi Yang's savage fierce man, he wanted to use him as a shield. Wang Xianxia was born locally, and they were all fellow villagers. How could he bear to let them die? It was able to control liquids very well, and was suitable for blood meridian specialists, cooking, tea-making, gardening, and if it was used in battle, it was suitable for martial artists proficient in water element illusionary martial techniques. 20 minutes later, a gigantic black stone pillar was formed. Tang Tian and the rest decided to expand the red grass village, and without money, they had to do it themselves. Many metals were resistant to fire, but could not withstand the corrosion of blood meridians. Shirsen then laughed. The Shang continent is barren. Commander Wang has suffered for the past few years. If the pontoon bridge can be repaired soon, then it will be a great merit. I will definitely report to Master and ask for Commander Wang's merit. My vast star continent, in the entire southern region, is a first-rate commercial center. It is flourishing. Commander Wang will know when the time comes. In the past few days, Tang Tian and the rest were extremely busy. Because of the black stone desolate beach, Tang Tian and the rest had to build a stronghold here before they left. The 6 black stone pillars formed a complete hexagon. Tang Tian and the rest were so tired that they sat on the ground, as though they had been fished out of the water. People below, spread out, pay attention to your safety. Bang bang bang. Wang Xianxia immediately regained his senses. He immediately raised his head, and when he saw the scene in front of him, his pupils dilated. He was more interested in the refinement of weapons in the sacred Saint Galaxy, but a pity, Xiao Yu only knew the basics. Xiao Yu had already become Little Fool's assistant, helping Little Fool to classify and categorize the materials. In this aspect, he displayed outstanding talent. One after another, thick ropes were tied onto the black stone pillars. Little Fool frowned. The straw basket imprint on the black stone pillars was an eyesore to him. It was not beautiful at all. But he knew that using flames to forge such a big black stone pillar far exceeded his ability. After obtaining this strange star treasure, Tang Tian did not know what it was used for. Could it be that he was using a watering can to bathe his enemies during a battle? The black stones were dissolving at a speed visible to the naked eye, fusing together, while the Aston water did not harm the red thatch sword grass at all. By his side was a gloomy and cold-looking man. His entire body was covered in armor, his long and narrow eyes flickered with a cold light. And the bodyguards accompanying him, all of them were surging with true power, their auras sharp. Yes, yes, yes. Wang Xianxia nodded his head. 1, 2, 3. An ear-piercing sound came out, and the black stone pillars suddenly sunk down. Tang Tian and the rest started to unravel the red thatch sword grass on the outside. The stone pillar's surface was filled with patterns of the straw basket. Shirsen did not look at Wang Xianxia and directly said, Commander Wang, please don't blame me. This time in the blue tide, out of the 30,000 li of pontoon bridges, more than 200 of them were destroyed. If the pontoon bridges were not repaired, the losses would be shocking, so Master gave the order to gather commoners. I am carrying the 200,000 men gap, Commander Wang, please don't make things difficult for me. To the current Little Fool, refining black stones was already very taxing, not to mention such a huge stone pillar. So when Sai Lei and Bing proposed the plan, Little Fool almost went crazy. Helplessly, he dived into the records left behind by Senior Gui Wu to find a way. They were all experts with regards to the control and precision of their strength, their sense of balance. It was almost instinctive. The tough and durable red thatch sword grass was weaved into a cylindrical-shaped straw basket, which was filled with black stones. The length of the straw basket was more than 55 m, and its diameter was more than 15 m. In the expansion plan, the most important thing was the 6 pillars with a diameter of 15 m and a length of 55 m. According to Bing and Sai Lei's request, the 6 pillars needed to be forged with black stones. Bang! I want to see what kind of god it is. Shursen said indifferently. He glanced at Wang Xian. If at that time, Commander Wang finds another excuse, then don't blame me for being impolite. The two worlds had completely different systems, which greatly expanded the horizons of Tang Tian and the rest. The Sacred Saint Galaxy and Heaven's Road were two completely different worlds. Although the Sacred Saint Galaxy did not have martial spirits, but the abundance of materials here far surpassed Heaven's Road. The treasures of Heaven's Road formed their own system, and the weapons of the Sacred Saint Galaxy had a long history, which was even more ancient than Heaven's Road. Crane started to organize the villagers. Bundles and bundles of red thatch sword grass were distributed, and they started to weave around the black stone pillars, forming a double-layer grass net, surrounding the entire village. Tang Tian was not angry. He laughed out loud and shouted, "Are you ready?" To be able to refine the forceful subjugating bead, Senior Gui Wu's standard of refining spirit treasures was extremely high, and could be said to be at the peak of perfection. Furthermore, Senior Gui Wu was a blood saint, and knew a lot of unorthodox methods, and as expected, Little Fool found a possible method. Little Fool took out a bucket of transparent liquid. It was a material specially prepared by the Blood Meridian's laboratory. Little Fool became the busiest person. He needed to continuously try out all sorts of unfamiliar materials, and then the materials that were chosen would be sent to Sai Lei for further analysis. The bitterness in Wang Xian's mouth became even thicker. He looked at Shi Yong. All of his hopes were placed on young noble savage. The two of them followed the blueprints and came up with an expansion plan. Little Fool's face was solemn. The Pisces spray bottle in his hand was pressed down. The Aston water was shaken into a mist, transforming into a mist that entered the cylindrical straw basket. But if they were to reject it, the Shang continent would definitely be flooded with blood. Tang Tian and the rest did not leave hastily. They still needed time to adapt to the Sacred Saint Galaxy. In front of us is the Red Grass Village. Master Meng Nan is temporarily staying there. Wang Xian said respectfully. Now that Little Fool was using it to refine, the weird and unorthodox water refining method was extremely suitable for the star treasure. In the sky, Tang Tian was commanding loudly. He was dragging a thick rope. The other end of the rope was tied to the black stone pillar. Around him, Bing was controlling Sky Tiger, Jing Hao and Ling Su, each of them pulling on a rope. Because they were worried that others would see through their origins, the new Red Grass Village decided to use mechanical techniques on a large scale. The Sacred Saint Galaxy's mechanical techniques were highly developed, and Bing suspected that the Southern Cross Army's mechanical techniques were most likely brought over from the Sacred Saint Galaxy. Chapter 570. Shi Sen retracted his gaze from the silk blade cage. His gaze landed on the Black Castle, his eyes blazing with passion. That was his goal. Thinking about that, greed flashed past his eyes. His gaze was fixated on the Black Castle. As for the villagers scattered on the ground, he did not even look at them. They are increasing their speed. Ling Su raised his eyebrows, eager to give it a try. The wind whistled past his ears. The Black Castle was rapidly getting closer. He could clearly see the fear and panic on the faces of the villagers, truly a group of lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Around the castle, the flat black ground was like a plaza, and what was even more surprising was that they were one with the city walls. Looking from afar, it looked like a black fierce beast, quietly lying dormant on the vast black gravel barren land. Where did it come from? Ling Su frowned, thinking bitterly. When he realized that Jing Hao had already disappeared, he immediately became annoyed and angrily stomped his feet. I was snatched away. Little Crane, you're too annoying. The two of them were startled and immediately opened their eyes. A light sound came out. The blade aura swayed as it passed through the ripples, flying straight towards Jing Hao. This was to train his senses, the feeling of his palms. He needed the moment of contact. Through the changes in his hands, he could judge its strength, direction, etc. In the past, Ling Su's spear techniques relied heavily on true power, but now that he was on the path of the zero-energy body, all those methods had lost their effectiveness and instead returned to the source. Wang Xian could hear the dissatisfaction and coldness in Shi Sen's voice and laughed bitterly. In truth, a few days ago, This place was still barren. And, to be able to build such a majestic castle in such a desolate place, there must be a reason behind it. Could it be that there are some unknown benefits here? The dazzling blade aura caused the entire place to be covered in white. His voice stopped abruptly. He raised his head and looked at the sky in disbelief. The 40 m tall city wall, even from afar, one could still feel its majesty. Such a scale of city wall should not appear in a small place like the Shang continent. Only the flourishing and important cities would use it. The strange hexagon, the 6 spires pointed towards the sky like swords, causing the black castle's solemn and dignified look to increase in sharpness. Because of this disturbance, the feeling under Crane's feet changed, and he fell onto the ground. The energy between heaven and earth seemed to freeze, but in the next second, it boiled and exploded. This strange cultivation method was created by Crazy Tang. Once this thought emerged, it could not be erased. The three of them only saw a blur in front of them. The saber gleams were like threads, and countless threads were like a huge net, enveloping them. Shi Yong was at the front of the group as they flew towards the Black Castle. Crane gasped for breath. Such training was extremely difficult, and consumed a lot of physical strength. He had trained for more than 10 years and was long used to using true power, but now he had to find his body's instincts. To him, it meant that he had to start all over again. Shi was shocked. He stopped in his tracks and squinted his eyes. Crane and Ling Yang's face changed. They were anxious. The two of them appeared beside Jing Hao at the same time and took action at the same time. Kill! Wang Xian suddenly realized that Shi, who was beside him, suddenly sped up. Almost at the same time, Shi's bodyguard also sped up. In the blink of an eye, they had covered a large distance. The saber sheath in his hand lightly patted the armor on his body. The soldiers looked at each other and immediately understood. It was a secret signal between them, meaning to immediately take action. They quietly adjusted their positions. Suddenly, a sword aura suddenly flew towards them from below. Furthermore, the defense of the Black Castle was extremely lax. With people entering and exiting, there was not a single person on the walls. It was too numb. They did not even have the most basic of guards. Isn't that Shi Yong? Ling Su asked curiously. Who are the people beside him? Is it that whatever village regiment? As long as they got closer, he was confident that before the enemy could react, they would be able to take down the Black Castle. Ling Su was enraged. Damn it! Come, let's fight to our heart's content. I have tolerated you for too long. This judgment lit up in his mind like lightning, his face turning ashen. He immediately understood why Shi let Shi Yong walk in front. He wanted to make use of Shi Yong to numb the enemy. Shi regained his senses and smiled at Wang Xian. Commander Wang did not tell me that there was a castle here. It was so far away that Shi did not need to care. Wang Xian did not suspect him. My regiment's leader Shi Yong. An undefended castle, how could they not take it down? Do whatever you want. As long as the training rooms and training grounds are done well, it will be fine. Ling Su did not care. With this distraction, the pebbles in his hands suddenly scattered all over the ground. The entire army's energy surged like a raging wave. 51 long blades brought along the surging sea of energy and frantically surged towards Shi. Senator Shi knew that the 6 spires were not just for show. He had rich battle experience. His observational skills were sharp. He could feel the energy gathering at the spires. Crane climbed up from the rubble, dusted off the dust on his body, looked at the sky, and felt weird. It doesn't look like it. They don't look weak. Let's go and ask. It had only been a few days. A few thoughts flashed past his mind. Shi was deep in thought. Maybe he was going to be rich. It's been a few days, and it's not over yet. Crazy Tang and Poker Face, what are they up to in there mysteriously? Ling Su mumbled to himself as he closed his eyes and did a different kind of training. He held onto a handful of pebbles, and they seemed to be stuck to his hand, rolling around endlessly, like a ball of sticky liquid, stuck to Ling Su's palm, and could not fall off. Shi laughed and said to Wang Xian, I wonder who they are most familiar with? Shi Yong was suspicious. They were already here. Why did they still need to lead the way? But he did not say anything and nodded, "All right." Overestimating yourself. The villagers below saw Shi Yong, who had just arrived 2 days ago, and saw Wang Xian in the crowd, and all waved their hands to greet him. In a short burst of speed, Shi Sen and his troops had completed their formation. Shi Sen heard the villagers discussing that it was definitely a big shot, and that they had come here to find Master Meng, and his mouth could not help but reveal a smile. His heart was filled with disdain. These people were too relaxed. The sword aura was not dazzling, but Shi Sen squinted his eyes, his heart trembling. This sword, he could smell the scent of laws. From the corner of his eyes, he saw an ordinary-looking swordsman. He never thought that the savage continent would actually have such a powerful swordsman. Shi Sen's eyes flashed with a trace of craftiness. The blazing sun blade aura exploded without any warning. What about laws? Although the sword aura's law aura was pure, but it was not strong. Shi Sen brought along his personal bodyguards. There were not many of them, only 50 of them, but all of them were strong. The key was that they had followed him for so many years, and were extremely familiar with battle formations, and had great teamwork. I never thought that it would be the same family. Shi Sen's smile became even more amiable. I hope Captain Shi can lead the way. He licked his lips, squinting his eyes, releasing a light aura like that of a wolf. He had always been vicious and merciless, and killed without any scruples. Where did he come from? As long as he did not leave anyone alive, who could do anything to him. At most, he would push the responsibility to the bandits, and the benefits would be tangible. Furthermore, the savage continent was too far away from the vast star continent. Army! Crane's face changed, his figure suddenly disappeared. Just like the Black Castle. As for the secret, as long as it landed in his hands, he had enough methods to make the enemy speak. Oh! Shi Sen's eyes became sharp and he bellowed, "Kill!" Just at that moment, an unforeseen event occurred. His own strength was outstanding and his military achievements were sufficient, but his family did not have any background, and was unable to be promoted, to the point that he did not have any land. If he was able to gain some wealth and clear his channels, he might be able to rise another level. Shi Sen wanted to attack the Black Castle. Sai Lei's plan this time is said to be powerful. Using mechanical techniques as the main factor, fusing some of the thoughts of the treasure city, she has created a brand new stronghold. Uncle Bing is very interested. Crazy Tang is being pulled to do hard labor. Shi Sen stared at Wang Xian's face, seeing that the other party's expression was not fake. He also noticed the other members of the precious Bright Village Regiment. All of them had faces of shock, and started to believe him. Shi Sen was extremely excited, the blood in his body was boiling, his fighting intent was at its peak. He unsheathed his blade and raised it up high. The blade in his hand, the sword tip was slightly raised. It was the signal to prepare for an attack. At that moment, the Black Castle was like a beautiful lady with her arms wide open. Everyone's eyes were blazing. It was not only him, the rest were doing the same training, but the only difference was Jing Hao was playing with the stones, while Crane was clumsily jumping around everyone. The black stones on the barren land were of different sizes and shapes. After closing his eyes, when he touched the stone, he had to feel the feeling from his feet, and quickly make a judgment. Wang Xian's face changed, although he was just a leader of a village regiment, but he could still recognize it was an assault. The three of them were not weak. Tangling with them would only delay the battle. As expected, they did not come with good intentions. Crane's face was gloomy. Guess where they came from? Oh, I did it on purpose. Crane's face was calm. He suddenly believed Wang Xian's words, that they had defeated the Blue Tide. With such a castle, with a certain number of battle personnel, defeating the Blue Tide was a possibility. Slash of the blade. The purpose of the obelisk should be to attack. Shi Yong was completely dumbstruck. Previously, the few masters had asked him for the blueprint of the stronghold, but who would have thought that? He thought that the masters only wanted to build a small stronghold here. As expected of someone from the savage continent, if they were truly from one of the aristocratic families, they would definitely have people who were proficient in formations. The aristocratic families were the most law-abiding and would definitely not make such a stupid mistake. Jing Hao's sword aura, like a fragile glass, it turned into fine powder. At the place where Jing Hao's sword aura was destroyed, the space started to ripple like water. The weak ripples started to distort the blazing sun blade aura. The guards by his side all unsheathed their blades at the same time, howling like wolves. One-on-one, Xianxia did not have the confidence to win, but now he had already gathered and increased his speed. The entire group's assault was at its peak state. The entire group's chi was as one, just a mere swordsman. Xianxia's mouth could not help but expose a sneer. If that was the case, then this group of people most likely had a powerful background. There's killing intent. Jing Hao suddenly opened his eyes and looked up into the sky. The palm was the most important part of the spear body, and its instincts were extremely important. Chapter 571. Bing mumbled to himself. Suddenly, the 6 spires lit up with dazzling light auras, causing Bing to be startled. Bing flicked the cigarette ash and continued, "Let's talk about the armor." The good news was that the energy here was very rich. Under the constant nourishment, the armor would be able to evolve. From the looks of it, the one with the highest possibility of evolving is this Ursa Major Constellations, Ursa Major Umbrella Coat. Bing quivered. This strength, it's an army. So fast. Before he could rejoice, an even more dazzling light aura shone from the city walls. A solid light barrier blocked the blade aura. The invincible saber aura could only penetrate 3 inches into the city wall before it was unable to advance any further. Without borrowing any strength, Zhang Xian leaped forward. Bing was an expert in finding opportunities for his side when the enemy was strong. Based on the current situation, the power that the armor can unleash in the Sacred Saint Galaxy is 12 times that of Heaven's Road, and the energy that can be mobilized is 25 times. I just don't know how strong the real armies here are. What a pity. If there is an army here, we will know. Tang Tian's exhaustion faded like the tide. He felt his whole body brimming with strength. The energy on the surface of his body slowly flowed. Before he could react, Hong, a loud sound rang out, and the entire black castle shook violently. Boom! The Ursa Major Umbrella Coat was extremely eye-catching among the 7 sets of armor, because it was already glowing with a faint gold color. Another piece of news that is neither bad nor bad is that as time passes, the nature of these armors will change. The nature of the energy here is completely different from Heaven's Road, and no one knows what it will become in the future. Crazy Tang ravaged them. The Red Grass Village's energy concentration was very high. It was much higher than the 12 Zodiac temples. This place completely had the conditions to build a treasure city. Someone was attacking. Bing looked at the data in front of him and bit his cigarette. Still okay. In terms of energy, there was no need to worry. The local experts here were more than capable. But to truly unleash its might, unless it is a zero-energy body, if not, it requires a tyrannical fleshly body. I doubt if the martial artists here are up to the task, as the Sacred Saint Galaxy does not seem to have any blood meridians. When the time came, he would see if he could transplant the bloodline system over or bring some bloodlines over to try. Oh, I have to discuss this with Old Man Fei. Xianxia was shocked by the light aura that suddenly lit up the Black Castle, but immediately after he saw the blazing blade aura that the small group had unleashed with all their might, smashing onto the Black Castle walls. When the light dissipated, the Black City wall was left with a 6 to 7 feet long mark. Xianxia looked at the shallow blade mark, and knew that the blade aura could not pose any threat to the thick wall. On the city wall, a warrior in silver armor stood coldly. Xianxia didn't even notice when the other party appeared. An army could mobilize a larger area of energy, and so could a treasure city. The 7 sets of armor greedily absorbed the surrounding energy, like 7 energy whirlpools. As time passed, the 7 sets of armor would continue to evolve and become even more powerful. The experienced and knowledgeable Xianxia immediately realized the astonishing wealth contained within. In his eyes, The black desolate beach was like an ocean of money. The Ursa Major umbrella coat was like countless of wriggling silver pieces, engulfing Tang Tian. Countless silver armor wriggled along the surface of Tang Tian's body. When they landed, Tang Tian was already dressed. Bing waved his hand, and a unique armor flew in front of him. The silver armor was like a silver bear squatting down silently. It was mighty and majestic, and the most eye-catching thing was the thick and heavy silver umbrella on its back. These few words were spoken with the last bit of his strength, and were hoarse and dry. Barbara returned to the Blue World, and said that he wanted to bring a powerful blue dwarf military general for Tang Tian. In Heaven's Road, everyone revered individual bravery, and armies were underestimated. On the contrary, in the Sacred Saint Galaxy, armies were the hegemons, and individual martial strength was easily underestimated. Don't look at how the grade of the 7 sets of armor were not high, they were all silver rank, and Ursa Major Constellation had spent a lot of effort to gather them. Among star treasures, the armor was an extremely special existence. Bing had specially asked Shi Yong about this, and Shi Yong's answer was exactly the same as his judgment. In the 10,000 continents of the Sacred Saint Galaxy, the most popular was the army, and there was not much space for individual martial artists to survive. Thinking about the blade auras released by his entire team, and only left a shallow blade mark on the Black City wall, Shi Sen's heart immediately became extremely passionate. Tang Tian was in an extremely strange state. Little Fool in his body contained an astonishing amount of energy, and outside his body was also surging with energy, while his zero-energy body was stuck in the middle. And what made Tang Tian even more surprised was that the layer of isolation belt actually allowed Little Fool's control to increase greatly. Such a strange effect was never seen or recorded in any ancient records. Tang Tian and the rest were unable to receive any support. Then is this plan useful or not? Tang Tian felt that his strength had recovered a little, and raised his head to ask. A completely new type of material, with powerful properties and astonishing quantity. They had truly struck it rich this time. To be able to enter the Sacred Saint Galaxy, only the few of them, and among them, only Bing was able to lead the troops into battle. In the short term, they were unable to open up the passage to Ursa Major Constellation, and that also meant that the armies of Ursa Major Constellation were unable to enter the Sacred Saint Galaxy. That's right, it was the Black Stones. The opponent was coming for the Black Stones. In Bing's vision, he only saw a silver light shooting out, like an ice-cold blade aura. It flashed in the air. The opponent's knees were slightly bent, his body leaning forward. That's good. Tang Tian mumbled. For the past few days, he was like a lab rat, and was tormented to death. Looking at the Black City walls that only had shallow blade marks, suddenly, his eyes caught sight of the black stones that could be seen everywhere on the desolate beach, and his pupils suddenly released a blazing light aura. Above the two of them, floated 7 different silver armors. But Sai Lei was obviously not a person who was willing to follow the rules, and Bing also felt that ordinary treasure cities did not have much meaning. The energy was extremely abundant, saints did not have spirit domains, the control of energy was not refined enough. Every set of armor could mobilize an astonishing amount of energy. How to defend the Black Castle became the biggest problem in front of Bing. Ordinary treasure cities would definitely not be able to deal with armies formed by saints, and that was why there was such an innovative plan. But these armors had extremely high requirements for the user. Such an astonishing amount of energy, the burden and corrosion it produced was extremely intense. Without a strong body, it was impossible to withstand it. He could feel the resonance of the armors in the 6 obelisks. He could mobilize the energy of the entire Black Castle and give the enemy a fatal blow. He did not do that. His gaze was firmly locked onto the enemy. Suddenly, Shi Sen's pupils constricted. When all these characteristics were gathered bit by bit, the judgment in Bing's heart gradually formed. It was different from Heaven's Road, where the saints revered individual strength. In the Sacred Saint Galaxy, it was the armies that reigned supreme. The 6 sets of armors entered the 6 obelisks, leaving only the Ursa Major umbrella coat, floating in front of Tang Tian. I'm rich. Tang Tian held onto his knees, perspiration flowing down his face like a meandering stream, dripping onto the floor. He looked as though he had just come out from the water, his clothes were drenched in perspiration, his face was slightly pale, his heavy breathing was like a bellow, he felt that he could not even move a finger. Shirsen's pupils suddenly dilated. Pa Jing Hao and the other two were forced by Tang Tian to train their fleshly bodies. They were all zero-energy bodies, but their fleshly bodies were not considered tyrannical, and that would limit their abilities. The unique armor, the style was different from any family he knew, releasing a terrifying aura, coldly staring at him. How is it? It's useful. Bing puffed out a smoke ring. To the current situation where we lack an army, this plan is probably the most suitable. We only need a small number of fighting men, and we can defend the Black Castle. Of course, we need to teach them how to use the armors. The energy that was highly compressed into blade auras, under the powerful force, its structure was destroyed, and it exploded. The 6 sets of armors transformed into 6 silver light, and entered the 6 obelisks. And the Ursa Major umbrella coat was placed in the center of the Black Castle, forming a resonance with the 6 sets of armors. Tang Tian did not care. From his extremely fatigued state, he immediately entered a battle state. It was not that his fatigued body had recovered, but he placed all of his attention on the battle. He needed to end it quickly. Even though it was not the first time they saw it, but every time they saw it, Tang Tian's visual impact was like a sharp blade aura. Bing could not help but feel his blood boiling. Tang Tian's reaction was faster than Bing, his eyes lit up with a cold aura. In that moment, he had entered a battle state. Enduring the pain in his body, he suddenly jumped, pouncing on the Ursa Major umbrella coat floating above his head. He was not surprised, but happy. He dared to confirm the Black Castle's standard was much stronger than any other stronghold. What did that mean? It meant that the other party viewed this place with great importance, and that the wealth contained here was definitely astonishing. The sacred Saint Galaxy had the most fertile land for the development of armies. The most ordinary villagers all had decent strength. As long as they trained, they would be able to form a decent fighting strength. And because the energy was too abundant, they were natural saints, so the fighting style of the people here was biased towards large-scale attacks, lacking finesse and variations. On the contrary, due to the lack of energy in Heaven's Road, it forced the martial techniques system of Heaven's Road to walk on the path of digging deeper. The Treasure City was a unique type of city in Heaven's Road. Using high-grade star treasures as the core, it could sort out the star power around the city and form a gigantic star power network. Regardless of whether it was defense or attack or daily training, it was extremely beneficial. As a famous general, Bing's insight was not something that others could compare to. In the past few days of observing in secret, he had a rather good understanding of the sacred Saint Galaxy. Tang Tian was used to experiment these few days, to find out exactly how strong a body was required to be able to bear the burden of these armors. Other than that, Bing also needed to understand what use each set of armors could display in the sacred Saint Galaxy. To them, the domination of armies was definitely not good news. Black rocks. Bing's excited shout came out from behind. What was even more powerful was that the 7 sets of armors formed a stable energy network, and all the energy within a radius of 50 kilometers was under their control. A dazzling light ball enveloped the city wall. Tang Tian appeared on the city wall. Wait a minute. This action. The slightly closed eyes of the Ursa Major bear revealed an indescribably cold and sharp aura. Carrying the umbrella, it stood there silently. Its entire body was covered in silver armor, like bulging muscles, containing an astonishing amount of power. Chapter 572. But the inheritance of Ursa Major constellation was the Ursa Major star's umbrella. Shirsen took the lead, his body moving along with his blade. The other soldiers were all shocked. They all knew that their master was going to risk his life. Without hesitation, they followed closely behind. Come on, kill! Shirsen's expression changed greatly. He could not believe his own eyes. How could there be someone who could release such a terrifying punch? He watched helplessly as the butterfly-like blade gleams that filled the sky melted like snowflakes. The corners of Shursen's mouth suddenly curled into a sinister smile. It had been a long time since he had met an idiot who dared to charge into his formation alone. Shursen was stunned at first, and then he couldn't help but laugh. His silver armor was like that of a bear, and his muscles were bulging. He was majestic and mighty. Suddenly taking out an umbrella, he looked indescribably comical. After wandering for so many years, only 46 of the original 500 people were left. Have a taste of the Ursa Major star's umbrella. The saber screen was instantly penetrated. The extremely excited waiter's expression suddenly froze. Tang Tian's body was like a drawn bow. His eyes suddenly expanded, he exhaled and punched. Right at this moment, the long blade in Shursen's hand was raised vertically in front of him. With a hint of demonic charm, he said in a low voice, "Dia Wu. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish." They saw him as a hero and followed him. They fought everywhere and traveled to the ends of the earth. 500 armored soldiers withered without regret. "I want a piece of land. Dong dong. So that's how it works. Isn't this the principle behind the vortex?" The feathers on his arms stood up one after another. They swept past the thick energy on the surface of his body at an astonishing speed. It was as if they were slicing through water. The feathers trembled in unison and gathered into a low hum, like the roar of a bear in the depths of the jungle. Shursen's hair was disheveled, and he seemed to have gone crazy. A trace of pain appeared on his face. For the current him, this move was extremely taxing. It had to be said that Shursen had mobilized the energy of 51 people to construct a distorted force field, which was very powerful. To be able to combine the power of an army and use such a meticulous method to attack, Shursen's strength was undoubtedly displayed. Even Bing's eyes could not help but flash a look of shock and admiration. Tang Tian's fist suddenly shone brightly like the sun. Tang Tian didn't dodge at all. It was as if he hadn't seen it at all. He plunged headfirst into the huge net filled with countless invisible forces. At this moment, a silver light suddenly flew behind him, and a rather heavy silver umbrella appeared in Shursen's field of vision. Tang Tian's demonstration of pure physical strength was incisively and vividly demonstrated by Tang Tian. Wherever this punch passed through space, whether it was energy or strength, everything was annihilated. Little Fool, who was in a state of excitement, was extremely excited. It was the first time he had mobilized such an astonishing amount of energy. The black castle behind him was continuously pouring in a sea of energy. The fist aura gathered by the spiral force was not in the shape of a normal fist aura. Instead, it was in the shape of an irregular cone under the high-speed rotation. With a low roar like a cannonball, it plunged into the blade screen. The speed of the punch was so fast that even the layer of energy attached to the surface of his body was pierced through. The waiter mumbled to himself. He did not know why, but he was extremely excited, an excitement that he had never felt before. Although Erwo had many good points, it was stupid and stupid. Little Fool was not satisfied with it. Erwo's power was not stable at all. Sometimes, it would show its dominance, but most of the time, it would make all kinds of low-level mistakes. Shursen felt that it was a pity. The pure and vigorous energy, tightly gathered on Tang Tian's body, it was like a layer of viscous liquid, adhering to the surface of Tang Tian's body, but was separated by Tang Tian's zero-energy body. To the extremely prideful Little Fool, if his other side was sunlight or passion, then it should be the perfect sunlight, the perfect kindness, and not stupid, not stupid. Little bear umbrella? Haha. I want victory. Chi-chi-chi. A thick layer of blade screen immediately rose around the entire group. The high-speed rotating blade screen was like a tornado formed by the blade auras, protecting the entire group. His thoughts were pulled far away in the past, when he was trapped in the enemy's formation. Facing a hopeless situation, he relied on the ichthyosaur transformation to kill his way out from the thousands of soldiers and horses. Out of the 500 men under him, only 100 were left. The armor on his body seemed to be made well. Regiment after regiment of light auras continued to spread out. They quickly merged in the air, and when the 46th Regiment of Light Auras completely merged, an extremely ferocious chi seemed to rise up from the deep sea, suddenly appearing. Shi Sen's scalp went numb as he watched the fist auras sweep past less than 2 m away from him, consecutively piercing through the bodies of 2 guards, and then collided with the blade screen and was destroyed. Tang Tian was completely unable to hear Little Fool's thoughts. Previously, Little Fool had realized the isolation of the zero-energy body was actually able to increase his control over energy. He had enough confidence to destroy the twisting power that was like a butterfly. Out of the 7 sets of armor, the Ursa Major Umbrella armor evolved the fastest, and that was also the reason. Shi Sen waved the blade in his hand frantically. The soldiers beside him also waved their blades quickly. The sky was filled with blade auras, like a group of butterflies dancing, crisscrossing in the air. It was extremely lively. The enemy's sinister faces, the passionate and greedy gazes, were reflected in his eyes. His mind that was almost empty only had instinctive thoughts. It was not a shout, not a roar, it was just a whisper like the wind. It was the young man's oath under the starry sky. This fellow, what is he trying to do? 2 fist auras once again pierced through the blade screen, taking away another 3 lives. In the blink of an eye, his troops had lost 10% of their men. His legs suddenly exerted strength. He was like a cannonball, pouncing toward Shi Sen, who was rushing over. Danger! Tang Tian's entire body was releasing an extremely dangerous aura. The usual Tang Tian would occasionally reveal a beast-like aura, but most of it was tyrannical and not dangerous. Umbrella? In the air, Tang Tian, who was dressed in heavy armor, twisted his waist and retracted his fist. A fist that was as fast as lightning. The Ursa Major Umbrella armor was the armor of Ursa Major Constellation and had always been unpopular. The majority of the martial artists of Ursa Major Constellation were swift and fierce, and the umbrella was such a delicate weapon and was completely disliked by them. More importantly, what Little Fool trained in was the Ursa Major Star's umbrella, and the might of the Ursa Major Umbrella armor was displayed to its fullest in his hands. Every time Little Fool activated the mental cultivation technique of the Ursa Major Star's umbrella, the martial spirit of the Ursa Major Umbrella armor would involuntarily cheer in joy. Shi Sen suddenly raised his head, his eyes lit up with a raging flame. Who knew if it was because he was too tired, but Tang Tian's state of mind was extremely calm, without any fluctuations. I want to win. Although the blade screen was pierced, but it still interfered with the opponent's lock-on, and the fist aura brushed past Shi Sen's shoulder by a few millimeters. For a force field that was constructed from energy, it required energy to break, and that was Little Fool's chance. What was the fool trying to do? As if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head, Little Fool's excitement disappeared without a trace. His heart was filled with disappointment. He was starting to be a fool again. Did I overestimate him? Tang Tian's body slightly leaned forward. He was like a violent silver bear that was accumulating power and preparing to pounce. His half-closed eyes opened at that moment. The cold aura that pierced straight into people's hearts was like light reflected on the snow-white blade edge. No, that was a spiraling energy. The first person to sense that something was wrong with Tang Tian was Little Fool. Shi Sen's eyes were about to pop out. The intense danger had completely ignited his ferocious nature. Thinking about that, his heart felt like it was being sliced by a knife. He wanted a piece of land, he wanted everyone to be rich and powerful, he wanted to build an ancestral hall, he wanted to burn incense and paper for them during festivals, he wanted the 454 heroic spirits to have a place to return to, he wanted to settle down their families. That was what he held onto the palm of their hands. Before they died, they all secretly swore in their hearts. All of their bodies lit up with a misty light aura, like many light fishes. Just at that moment, all of them released their energy at the same time, completely opening up to their teammates, without holding anything back. A dazzling fist aura pierced through the complicated and chaotic force field, and continued to enlarge in his eyes. This was Shi Sen's final trump card killing technique, the group of fish transforming into a dragon. The most difficult part of this technique was that it required unconditional trust between both parties. If any of them were to be on guard, it would cause the power of this technique to decrease greatly. They were like a school of fish, frantically pouncing towards the enemy. Shi Sen's face revealed a pleased look. This butterfly dance had buried countless heroes. All the invisible force fields were filled with killing intent, and when the force fields overlapped, it would reach an astonishing level. He had once ambushed 20 mechanical giants and forcefully twisted them into 20 large fried dough twists. All the bewitching vine-like power, in front of the ferocious fist, turned into ashes. Every blade aura swept through the air, like a butterfly flapping its wings, bringing forth ripples. Suddenly, the air around Tang Tian became chaotic, countless of ripples intertwined in the air. Each ripple brought forth a small amount of twisting force. In the blink of an eye, a huge and complicated force field, like a net, enveloped Tang Tian. The unprecedented danger caused all the hairs on Shi Sen's body to stand. Without thinking, he placed his blade in front of him and shouted, "Wind! Don't wait a minute." At that moment, the fool's most instinctive battle state appeared, causing Little Fool to immediately become excited. He finally found a common point between the two. A battle should be like this. It should be dangerous and overflowing with killing intent. Blood should flow like a river. It should be cold and merciless, boiling blood. It should be the most beautiful flower in the world. The intense annihilation effect formed a hole. The energy on the surface of his body was frantically pulled, at an astonishing speed, converging towards Tang Tian's fist. Under the disguise of a lunatic, is this the real you? Tang Tian's most proficient fundamental fist technique, other than being fast, it had no other advantages. Tang Tian did not notice. It was as if he did not see the silver umbrella. "Kill, kill!" Little Fool's eyes were filled with blood. He roared in a low voice. Ichthyosaur transformation. Every blade aura's trajectory was extremely erratic and hard to predict. They flew around Tang Tian, sometimes far, sometimes near. "Kill! Wait a minute!" Little Fool's pupils dilated. He looked at Tang Tian's fist in disbelief. Little Fool was dumbstruck. What made him even more confused was, all the energy on the surface of Tang Tian's body was being pulled by the small whirlpool. Bing, who had just flown up the city wall, coincidentally saw the scene. His pupils dilated. "These blade auras. I want to defeat them." Chapter 573. Countless of energy flew out like snowflakes. Tang Tian's fist seal was instantly dispersed, and Shi Sen's ichthyosaur transformation's light aura also dimmed. Shi Sen's face flushed red. The sealed land was right in front of him. Shi Sen woke up in the afternoon. His injuries were not serious, but his eyes were empty and dim. He was extremely depressed. Before he lost consciousness, he was strangely calm. "I'm sorry, everyone." Tang Tian thought for a moment, wait for Shi Sen and the rest to wake up, then think of something. But he did not expect that Shi Sen would actually make the first move. Without even saying a word, he immediately charged forward and lost. This made Wang Xian feel that his brain was not enough. Such a strong military general, such a strong team, actually lost, and lost so thoroughly the entire team, from top to bottom, fainted. "What do I do? What do I do?" Gritting his teeth, Little Fool helplessly waved his silver umbrella. The 46 bodies, as though there was an invisible hand holding them up, the momentum of their descent immediately stopped. The 46 people landed steadily on the ground, while Tang Tian was like a silver high-grade scale, smashing heavily onto the ground. "I'm going to train." After saying that, Ling Su left angrily. The 46 figures lost control at the same time and fell from the sky. The power of Little Fool's attack was borne by the 46 people at the same time, causing them to suffer varying degrees of injuries. In the next moment, rhythmic snoring sounds came out from the shallow hole. Sensing Shi Sen's fighting intent, the 45 elite soldiers roared at the same time. "Bang! You guys must be protecting me from the heavens, right? You guys must be following me from the heavens, right? You guys must have never left, right? How can you say you have no clothes? Robes with your son. Wang Yu's army, repair my spear. Hatred with my son. That will only be me. Wang Xian did not dare to leave. He had already offended the vast star continent. If he were to surrender now, the vast star continent would not let the Shang continent off, and the entire Shang continent would be razed to the ground by the vast star continent. Wang Xian was not willing for his fellow countrymen to be conscripted as farmers, so how could he be willing to see the Shang continent razed to the ground? Jing Hao and the other two who struggled out from the desolate land had extremely ugly expressions. He didn't say anything else. Instead, he turned around and left to practice his swordplay. Roaring like a wild beast, Xianxia's eyes turned red, all of his energy converged towards the long blade in his hand. The dragon-shaped light aura that enveloped the team revealed its sharp claws. Go to hell. They were one, and the light that enveloped them was like a dragon spreading its body, pouncing towards Tang Tian. Ding! Wang Xian's face was filled with despair. He initially wanted to use Master Meng Nan as a shield. He never expected that Master Xianxia would suddenly make a move. However, what Wang Xian did not expect was that Lord Xianxia actually lost. The waiter was about to explode from anger. The surging energy on the umbrella transformed into a vast sea of stars. Little Fool gently spun the umbrella handle. The sea of stars slowly rotated. It spun faster and faster. The blade at the tip of the umbrella trembled slightly, as though it was being twisted into a grinding wheel. However, the powerful Xianxia actually lost. This fool actually fell asleep. He actually fell asleep. Tang Tian quivered. He suddenly awoke from his daze. The soreness surged towards him like a tide, his face immediately contorting from the pain. There was also something that Tang Tian was familiar with: faith. Master Meng Nan's strength was actually so terrifying. Their only hope now was Master Meng Nan. The dragon shape dimmed, but the long blade in Xianxia's hand floated with a bewitching light aura. The whistling sound in the sky suddenly disappeared. Time seemed to have stopped. All of the light aura in the world was gathered on the bewitching and beautiful long blade. Wang Xian, who had personally witnessed the entire battle, was dumbstruck, but when he regained his senses, his face slowly turned white. Xianxia was an important figure of the vast star continent. If anything were to happen to him in the Shang continent, then the vast star continent would definitely flatten the Shang continent, leaving nothing behind. Wang Xian slowly chewed and gradually understood the taste. Tang Tian sat beside him. We need to work hard. Crane said he had not suffered such a huge setback for a long time. Although everyone knew that the Sacred Saint Galaxy's army was powerful, but the strength of the Sacred Saint Galaxy's army still shocked them. On the city walls, Bing was muttering to himself, occasionally recording down the details of the battle. He was extremely engrossed, and did not even look at Tang Tian, who was sleeping soundly in the pit. Am I going to die? That's great, I can see everyone again. I know, you guys definitely never left. At that moment, he did not dare to hold back. The 6 obelisks had a reaction, and the energy converged into the silver umbrella increased by a few times. To them, the saints of the Sacred Saint Galaxy were not strong enough, but it was these weak saints, when they formed an army, that displayed a fighting strength that far exceeded their imagination. Xianxia looked at the long blade in his hand. The light aura quickly dimmed, losing its beauty, losing its bewitching aura, transforming into ordinary iron, breaking into countless of fine sand, exploding in his palm. The silver-armored martial artist got closer and closer. Xianxia's sinister face disappeared, leaving behind a solemn and pious look. The vast star continent would definitely not sit by and watch, and in the end, the most probable outcome would be an army pressing down. At that time, the Shang continent would completely become a dead continent, and they would definitely not let any living person of the Shang continent go. And the kid holding the umbrella. Countless shattered auras flew like rain, like stars, like mist. It was so beautiful that it caused people to choke, but at the same time, it was so cruel that it caused people to choke. All of these elite old soldiers, any one of them was enough to beat Wang Xian until he crawled on the ground looking for his teeth. For Wang Xian to be the commander of the precious Bright Village Regiment, he had this bit of judgment. All of these elite old soldiers were by themselves a huge fortune, and to those powerhouses who had the heart to develop an army, they were definitely not something that money could buy. Ling Su fiercely held onto his spear, his chest filled with rage. He did not care if it was an army or not, he was extremely enraged at his own failure. Did you guys see that? Until the second day, Tang Tian woke up from his slumber. After a good night's sleep, Tang Tian felt that the energy in his body was extremely abundant, and he had an endless amount of energy. Master Meng Nan's strength was terrifying, and the ink castle was also inconceivable. When he heard the last sentence, together with my son, his eyes became blurred with tears. A loud sound came out, the indestructible black stone ground was actually smashed into a shallow pit, and Tang Tian laid in the center of the shallow pit, not moving at all. The fist auras that he released immediately lost control. The originally condensed energy had signs of loosening. Shi Sen's fish transformation dragon coincidentally collided head-on. 46 people, their bodies changed, energy surged, and indistinctly formed dragon figures. Little Fool looked at the fool helplessly. You can't even protect yourself, and you're still shouting about saving people? He wished that he could just fall to his death. If not for the fact that he was his other side, he would definitely let him fall to his death. Definitely. How can you say that you have no clothes? Together with my son. Wang Yuxing's troops, repair my spear, together with my son. Wang Xuanxian's report was too important, so Tang Tian immediately gathered everyone. After hearing it, everyone was dumbstruck. They did not expect Shi Sen to actually have a backup plan, and specially left an army to guard precious Bright City. If it dragged on for too long, the army would definitely have suspicions, and at that time, it would be a huge problem. At the moment, what they needed to do was to cover it up. The news of Shi Sen being captured must not be leaked out. There was still an army stationed in precious Bright City, and they had to think of a way. The simple and desolate war song resonated in his heart. Crane did not say much, although the three of them could not defeat the army, and that was a normal thing, but to Crane, it still made him feel humiliated. It was right in front of him. The truth was, no matter how high-grade a scale was, it was still a scale. He thought about how they were in high spirits when they had just formed, they drank wine, talked about the future, married and had children, they were filled with longing. He thought about how they were framed by their allies, surrounded, and dyed the battlefield red with blood. Their hearts were filled with despair. He thought about how they had transformed into bandits, howling through the forest. They were confused. An opened silver umbrella blocked the long blade. The powerful strength that Shi Sen displayed was definitely not a nameless person. The bodyguards by his side were all elite soldiers. All of them were relatively swift and fierce. How could they say they had no clothes? Wearing the same clothes as my son, Wang Yu's army, cultivating my spear, and walking with my son. Little Fool's gaze was ice cold. Although the fool is stupid, although I admire your conviction, but there can only be one winner. Wang Xuanxian felt that his mind was in a mess. Like a lump of paste, he was completely unable to think clearly. The battle had completely exceeded his limits. A clear and crisp sound came out. It was so cruel that it caused people to tremble. Bang! Did I lose in the end? His face was gloomy, and he went to train. Shi Sen's commanding ability also opened Wang Xuanxian's eyes. He praised in his heart, as expected of a big figure in the business continent. The entire battle caused Wang Xuanxian to be dazzled. Shi Sen was definitely a high-standard military general. Not to mention the butterfly dance and the ichthyosaur transformation, Wang Xuanxian could not even understand them and prostrated himself in admiration of Shi Senator Wang Xuanxian, who had been waiting nearby, hurriedly explained everything he knew in detail. Did we fail? I'm sorry, everyone. Although Tang Tian's mind was a little weak, but because of that, his fighting instincts were displayed to its fullest. He immediately sensed the change in Shi Sen, that absolute fighting intent. Wang Xuanxian had traveled extensively and was knowledgeable. When Shi Sen made his move, he was also shocked, but his mind was faster than Shi Sen's. When he saw the majestic Black Castle, he immediately noticed that the Black Castle was exactly the same as the black rocks on the desolate beach, and immediately realized the value of the desolate beach. Xianxia sat on the ground, not saying a word, as though he had lost his soul. The energy in his body was sealed, and he was like a baby, clumsy and clumsy. Jinghao's face revealed a self-mocking smile. Previously, I thought that I was able to cultivate out a sword spirit, and that was impressive, but I never thought that I would suffer a blow today. But the next time I meet an army, what kind of armor is that silver armor? I am about to win, do you guys see it? Wang Xian waited to report to Master Meng Nan, but who knew that Master Meng Nan was sleeping soundly? He did not dare to disturb him, and could only wait patiently by the side. Tang Tian, who was completely out of energy, his body fell down uncontrollably, but he could not care about anything else, and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Save me!" Chapter 574. Xianxia finally exploded, his face contorted sinisterly. You think everyone is like you guys? Sitting at home, you have everything? What do you guys know? I only know how to kill, understand? I only know how to kill. I don't know how to curry favor, I don't know how to please, I only know how to go to the battlefield and kill the enemy. You want to talk about military achievements? You think that by achieving military achievements, you can get what you want? Don't be fucking naive. Have you ever enjoyed being stabbed in the back by your allies? The military achievements you achieved became someone else's? Even when you repaired your weapons, you did not give them money, they did not care about you. We fought less and less, we left, we did not have enough to eat, we became bandits, halfway through, we gave up, we did not want to be bandits, we did not want to live so sneakily, we would rather die on the battlefield. I was really an idiot at that time. Xianxia's heart was filled with bitterness, he became even more gloomy, seems like I am really old, really useless, I am no longer the me of the past. You carried their dreams, their hopes, even they did not give up. What qualifications do you have to give up? Bing was secretly surprised. All along, Tang Tian had outstanding battle instincts, like a wild beast's intuition. But, from the looks of it, this fellow's battle instincts seemed to be improving. What is the deadline for your mission this time? Bing continued to ask. Although I really want to console you, but I feel that Crazy Tang's words are not wrong. Bing stared at Xianxia, who was curled up and crying on the ground, and said, You better think about it. Xianxia was stunned, but immediately became even more furious. Are you an idiot? What do you need money for? No, playboy like you, all you have is money, you don't know anything. I want money. I want to buy a big piece of land. I want everyone to retire together. I want to build the best houses for them. I want to give each of them a few wives. I want to build a big ancestral hall. Isn't it ridiculous? Idiot. Tang Tian was also sizing him up. Xianxia's eyes were sunken, his beard was unkempt, he was depressed, he looked to be around 40 years old, his face was thin, with distinct edges. The hair on his temples had turned white overnight, revealing his old age. Xianxia was startled, but he quickly regained his composure. He did not expect everyone to be captured, and the threat in the other party's words was unmistakable. Xianxia did not want everyone to be mistreated, so he said indifferently, People die for wealth, and birds die for food. What's so great about that? Dying in your hands can be considered an ending. Give me a quick death. But, why did she feel sad? How childish. Would it be effective to provoke him with such words? But, why was she so sad? Hey, it's very rude of you not to answer. Tang Tian shouted, Don't you have an army? Why didn't he do it himself when he could equip so few people? Don't you know how important it is to prepare before the battle? Bing looked at Tang Tian in surprise. With his eyesight, he could see that Xianxia's tactics were extremely high level, and was obviously under many restrictions, and could not display his full potential. But Bing did not think that Tang Tian would actually be able to see it. After roaring, Xianxia fell to the ground as though he was drained of energy. Looking at the sky, his thoughts drifted far away. Hurry up and do it, and don't mistreat them. Give us a quick death. Why did you attack us? Tang Tian asked curiously. Don't talk about the 46 of you left. Even if you were the only one left, you should never give up on the battle. Don't talk about the white hair on your head. Even if you lost all your hair, all your teeth, and fell down while walking, you should crawl and fight to the end. Tang Tian scolded as he fought. I'm so angry. This idiot, asshole. Simply unforgivable. I have never seen such a cowardly asshole before. You better answer honestly. Bing suddenly interrupted. Your subordinates are all in our hands. That's right, he could not even equip his own subordinates' weapons. Was there anyone more useless than him? Isn't working hard what you should be doing? The smoke lingered, and the faces in his memory flashed past his eyes like a flashing lantern. I have let you all down. Bing frowned. He could tell that Shursen was not lying, but that also meant that their plan to use Shursen to control the army had failed, and the matter had become even more troublesome. His back involuntarily bent, and a dispirited and defeated aura enveloped his entire body. Bing appeared beside Crane and Jing Hao, and pointed at Tang Tian and Ling Su, with a face full of ridicule. The clash between lunatics is always so passionate. Unknowingly, tears flowed out of his eyes, his weathered old face. Tears flowed freely. Was it his battle instincts? Was this fellow's battle instincts already so strong? The two of them fought like a raging fire, both scolding each other, completely ignoring each other's words. Anxious? Why should I be anxious? Since I did not complete the mission, I will be the one to blame. Shursen exposed a mocking look. Because they know you are working hard, although you are stupid, I don't think they are worthy. Bing said indifferently. Bing's poker face froze. He stammered, everyone is. Shursen knew what the other party was thinking. He took the cigarette, lit it up, took a deep breath, and then said, Sun Zheng is my assistant. He is from the Sun family, and coming to me is just to add a layer of gold. Such a young man with boundless prospects is a wise master. For an old man like me, who would care about him? Shursen was already too lazy to speak. Bang! Shursen only felt a burst of energy. His body was heavily smashed to the ground, and Tang Tian angrily turned and left. The pain coming from his back, Shursen did not feel it. He stared blankly at the sky, his mind filled with Tang Tian's words. The furious Tang Tian found Ling Su. Ling Su, come and fight. The two of them pulled apart and started to fight. With that, Bing also left. Bing spoke frankly with assurance, causing Shursen's heart to feel even more bitter. The other party was an expert. His standard was extremely high. In one move he had grasped Shursen's tactics. With such strength, he was definitely not a nobody. Can't lift up your blade? Are you old? Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to them. They must be extremely disappointed with you now. I dare to bet with you. They would rather die on the battlefield than to see you begging for mercy like a pitiful worm, or begging for death. This is simply infuriating. You carry their dreams, their hopes, even they did not give up. What qualifications do you have to give up? But he was actually defeated by a brat? Hey, I'll give you a piece of land. Shursen's hand trembled. He did not say anything, and only continued to smoke in silence. That's right, 500 people. When they were established, they had 500 people, and they were all top-notch youths. So noisy. Why did we attack you? For money. Bing looked at Shursen and said, this type of tactics indeed requires certain conditions. If I am not wrong, when this type of tactic was created, it was targeted at a group of 500 people. Why didn't you equip them with suitable equipment? Tang Tian asked in bewilderment. Coward. Why? Crazy Tang's tactics. Did he even have such a thing? Tang Tian suddenly said, your tactics, its might is not limited to that, right? Hearing the naive question, Shursen could not be bothered. Is he feeling sad for his own incompetence? Jing Hao said, that's what I wanted. Coward. Why? The two of them immediately started fighting. Shursen's body trembled, but he did not say anything. Shursen raised his head and sized up the young man who defeated him. Don't bother me. Ling Su was still brooding over the loss 2 days ago, and the moment he opened his mouth, it was filled with irritation. The army stationed in precious Bright City, do they listen to your commands? Bing continued to ask, and threw a cigarette to Sure Senator. The veins on Sure Sen's forehead were twitching, and he clenched his fists tightly. Tang Tian was not scared at all, and curiously leaned over. What do you want money for? Crane turned his head and said to Jing Hao, let us fight too. His first impression was that he was too young, too young. Other than that, he did not see any good points. He did not have the confidence of an aristocratic family disciple, he did not have the calmness of having everything under control, and he did not have that free and easy atmosphere. Bing, Sun Zheng is not anxious. Sure Sen sneered, full of ridicule. I want money, I want a lot of money, I have seen through it, the rich are the masters. I was too stupid in the past. If I had known earlier, I would have done a few big things, and have everything. Since we are all killing people, who are we not killing? What ideals? They are all bullshit. 2 months, 200,000 civilian workers. No matter how many people or how few people, the might of this tactic will be greatly reduced. 40 people cannot support this tactic. Secondly, this tactic has a requirement for equipment. It is best to have the same equipment. This can allow their energy to oscillate and be more synchronized. And out of all the equipment, the harshest requirement is his long blade. It needs to be able to bear the strongest load. Ling Su's face was filled with killing intent. His spear shot out like rain, squeezing out from the gaps of his teeth. One spear to death. One spear to death. The next time I will definitely stab all of them to death. A voice came out from above, causing Sure Sen's mouth to twitch, not knowing if he was crying or laughing. You want to recruit us? 3 people said that to me, and like an idiot, I believed them. One was promoted and left, and I could not even find him. One framed us, and many of our brothers died. One waited for our numbers to dwindle, and swept us out like old dogs. I am old, we are all old, and cannot wield our blades anymore. I do not ask for anything, I only ask for a quick death. You are not even afraid of death, what are you afraid of? Tang Tian looked at Sure Sen, who was lying on the ground like a pile of mud. A burst of evil fire surged out. He was enraged, one hand grabbing onto Sure Sen's collar, lifting him up from the ground. He scolded, are you afraid of being cheated? Or are you afraid that your hard work will be for naught? Isn't hard work what you should be doing? They followed you, believed in you, gave their lives to you. Their numbers are getting lesser and lesser, but they did not leave you. Because you are fighting together with them, because they know you are working hard, even though you are stupid. Idiot. What reason do you have to not work hard? Afraid of being cheated? Is that a reason? Failure is failure. You are not dead yet. You should fucking say, even if you die, you will never give up. To be defeated by such a person, it was not considered a disgrace. Uncle, how can we unleash the full power of this tactic? Tang Tian asked Bing. Chapter 575. 12 years. The fatty sighed. You are already an old man. Without all of you, there would not be today's vast star continent. I know that many people are already satisfied with the current situation. The vast star continent today, compared to the vast star continent 12 years ago, is much stronger. Now that everyone had a family and a career, they felt that it was time to enjoy life. But, Ziqing, take a look. Song Didi, long time no see. Barbara opened his arms. Barbara did not refute, but raised his eyebrows. Why not? As long as you pledge loyalty to Lan Hai, I believe that with your talent, you will definitely rise in the Red Order army. Although the Blue Sea gave birth to us, I don't want to become a puppet. I have already awakened and have my own consciousness. I will die in a few decades. In any case, I will return to the Blue Sea after I die. But before that, I just want to live my own life. Didi spread his hands. Barbara, don't tell me you came to talk to me about life today? In any city of the Blue Dwarves, there would be a mother vine. The closer one was to the mother vine, the more valuable it was. The current him could no longer act recklessly like before. He could no longer act only for himself. Unknowingly, he had already become the leader of these people. It might not have been his original intention, but it was the truth now. Where did the soldiers come from? You and me? Song Didi said sarcastically. The best soldiers are always produced in the blue sea. The teacup on the table smashed into his face. He lowered his head and didn't dare to move. Blood flowed down from his forehead, making him look extremely horrifying. It's been a long time. Song Didi opened his arms and warmly hugged Barbara. Quickly come in. Vast star continent. A stout fatty swept his gaze across the report in his hands and asked without raising his head, how's the progress of the pontoon bridge in the Sea of Light? Do you know how much money I have to spend for a day? Do you think it's easy to support you? Fatty sighed. Things are so expensive now. Money is like water. What does our vast star continent rely on? This was business. If the pontoon bridge in the Sea of Light was broken for a day, I would lose another day. Ziqing, how many years have you been with me? What if we form our own army? Barbara asked. Our vast star continent is located in a strategic location, and this has made us successful. Looking at the entire southern region, the vast star continent is currently ranked in the top 10 commercial continents. There was a tinge of pride in Fatty's tone. However, this also means that we are in a battleground. We are like a piece of fat meat. Who knows how many people want to pounce on us and take a bite? It was Barbara's first time in Abadiya, but he quickly found his destination. It was a concave valley in a remote location. It was obvious that his old friend wasn't doing very well. Yang Ziqing knew that his master was extremely angry and did not dare to make a sound and did not dare to wipe the blood off his face. Who is it? A dissatisfied voice came from inside. Milord, 12 years. Yang Ziqing replied. It is I, Barbara, returned Barbara. After venting, his mood also calmed down. Perhaps it was because, like Shursen, he had already begun to carry the dreams and hopes of others. No, there must be a way. Abadiya City was shrouded in a faint blue mist. It was the blue mist unique to the Blue Dwarves race, and would appear in every gathering place of the Blue Dwarves. It was a mist secreted by the blue vines, and could protect the Blue Dwarves from the corrosion of the void. Tang Tian had thought that the Sacred Saint Galaxy would be a brand new environment, but he did not expect that the difference between the Sacred Saint Galaxy and Heaven's Road would be so huge. Wang Xian said that the vast star continent had 36 armies, and in the southern region, the vast star continent was not the strongest. This number caused Tang Tian to almost not believe his own ears, and made him feel an immense pressure. Wise. Fatty's voice suddenly became sharp. Who will say that I am wise? They will only complain about me. Why don't I give them the money? They have worked hard, and should enjoy it. He looked at the sky in a daze, gasping for breath, perspiration dripping down his face. He did not know why he was so angry, but he was angry. Yang Ziqing revealed a bitter smile. Seems like I need to exert some pressure on my subordinates. Master said to let go and do it. It is support and also a warning. If I let go and do it and still can't do it well, then it is a problem of my own strength. Yang Ziqing understood his master. The master only looked at the results. The Shang continent was a poor place. There was only one school, and the standard was extremely low, far below the average standard of the Sacred Saint Galaxy. His strongest point had actually become his weakness, causing Tang Tian to feel that they were at a complete disadvantage. Furthermore, they were in the Sacred Saint Galaxy, and the army system had a long history. After listening to Wang Zhuanxian's description, Tang Tian then understood how strong of a challenge they were facing. Jing Hao, Crane, and Ling Su, the three of them working together, were actually unable to stop a small group of 50 men. That was something unimaginable in Heaven's Road. In front of the table, a man around the age of 30 had his head lowered and spoke carefully. The progress is not very big. The shortage of civilian workers is too big. Tang Tian was so tired that he laid on the ground like a pile of mud. He knocked on the door. He did not make a sound. There was nothing much to say. Everyone trusted you, so you just had to work harder. Until today, when he saw Shursen's dispirited and disheartened look, the rage in his heart suddenly exploded. That is not a good idea. Song Didi shook his head. Once the Blue Dwarves awaken, they will have their own thoughts, and will become disorganized. They will go and research on mechanisms and research on all sorts of weird things, but they will definitely not be qualified soldiers, like you. It was like, in the past, he could think of rushing forward by himself, but now, he had to bring everyone forward. Can we complete it in 5 months? Fatty asked casually. In the past few days, the pressure on him had been increasing. His tone was extremely relaxed, as though he was smiling. But the Sacred Saint Galaxy was truly different from Heaven's Road. Barbara's return did not startle anyone. Compared to the other blue dwarves, he was much smarter. He came to Abadira Mountain. Abadira Mountain was a huge rock in the void. Its size was astonishing. Its length was more than 240 miles, and its widest part was more than 170 miles. Its shape was like an anvil. Of course not. Barbara said solemnly, "What if there is a chance now to let you lead an army?" Very quickly, Barbara found his old friend's house, which was actually an extremely small cave. The blue dwarves had built their own city on top, Abadira City. Stop dreaming. Song Didi shook his head. Blue Ocean will definitely not let an awakened blue dwarf that does not pledge loyalty to him lead any army. That is an iron law. It was a terrible feeling. Yang Ziqing walked out of the master's room, his mind still in a daze. He composed himself, and decided not to think so much, and first settle the matters of the pontoon bridge. He looked at the sky. The sky was azure blue. The sky of the Sacred Saint Galaxy was no different from Heaven's Road. Fatty's face was filled with ridicule, but he quickly calmed down. But, regardless of what they think, I do not care. Seems like you are not living well. Barbara looked around the room. It was extremely simple and crude. Blue world. Teamwork was very important in any job here. The small wooden door opened with a creak, and a blue dwarf appeared, his face filled with joy. "Barbara, why are you here?" Barbara was embarrassed. He was truly not a good soldier, but he did not plan to give up. "Maybe you are right, but Song Didi, you are a knowledgeable person. Why is it that the humans have their own consciousness, but their army is still so powerful?" Bang. Song Didi was taller than Barbara by half a head. His physique was even more powerful. He had an aquiline nose, deep blue eyes. The way he looked at people was filled with judgment, causing people to feel uncomfortable. But inside the city, there was no misty blue mist. More accurately, it is extremely bad. Song Didi poured a cup of water and passed it to Barbara. "I only have water here. Luckily you are not a particular person." The valley was truly secluded. Yang Ziqing perspired in cold sweat. He braced himself and said, "No." Fatty walked to the constellation telescope. The gigantic constellation telescope projected the position of every planet in the Sacred Saint Galaxy. "I am not willing to pledge my loyalty to Blue Ocean." Song Didi did not avoid it. He looked at Barbara. "We are the same type of people, Barbara. We have already awakened. Although you have disguised it well, but I have long discovered it. If we were to say that Heaven's Road's individual martial technique system was developed to its peak, then the Sacred Saint Galaxy's army system was similarly developed to its peak. Once the youths of the Sacred Saint Galaxy were born and entered schools, they would receive the most basic group training. They needed to understand the most basic coordination, the most basic tactics. These students, upon graduation, would be able to find their own positions in all sorts of armies, for example the village regiment, mercenary army, fiefdom, elite barracks, etc. As though he could see Yang Ziqing's thoughts, Fatty laughed. Humans, after not exercising for too long, there will always be some garbage and toxins in their bodies. To clear their stomach, to expel the toxins, they will be full of energy again. With you doing things, I am assured. In 3 months, the pontoon bridge needs to be fixed. Go ahead and do it. I know that many people down there have problems with me. They think that we have too many armies in the vast star continent, but do they not think, if we do not have so many armies, how can we survive? How can we protect the treasures of the vast star continent?" Yang Ziqing felt a chill down his spine. He knew the master's long-awaited purge was about to begin. Even in Heaven's Road, the weakest army was still an army. Fatty raised his head, as though nothing had happened. His face did not reveal any emotions. Do you know how much I will lose if the pontoon bridge is not fixed for a day? We can find the awakened blue dwarves just like us. Barbara pointed to himself. Song Didi was startled. In Heaven's Road, the reason why Tang Tian's Ursa Major constellation was able to contend against the other powerhouses was because they had a strong army. But no matter how confident Tang Tian was, he would never think that the army that they had been tossing and turning for a few years would be able to compete with the sacred Saint Galaxy's army system that had been developed for tens of thousands of years. Master is wise. Yang Ziqing said. The last time I received your letter, I was shocked. Barbara drank a mouthful, then placed the cup down. I feel that with your talent, you can completely stay in the Red Order army. Fatty patted Yang Ziqing's shoulder. Tang Tian looked at the sky in a daze. I will definitely find a way. Chapter 576. Barbara, who are you serving? Song Didi raised his head, his eyes shining as he stared at Barbara. Uncle. Underworld Continent's demonic mounts. Tang Tian muttered to himself, seems like he has a huge background. Oh, I will ask around when the time comes, but for now, why? Shursen was like a cat that had its tail stepped on. He immediately jumped up, hugging the black wind blade, his white hair and beard fluttering. He stared at Bing angrily. Bing immediately regained his senses and coughed lightly. It is already prepared. After carefully studying Shursen's tactics, I think that the strongest point of this tactic lies in the changes in the state of energy sharing. Its greatest difficulty lies in 2 points. One is the long blade, which requires a high intensity of energy. For that, we have specially prepared a set of standard long blades, black wind blades. Shursen finally could not take it anymore, and cried out in pain. Underworld. Underworld Continent's demonic mounts. Wang Xuanxian's face turned pale white, he stammered, and looked at Shursen as though he had seen a ghost. That is a pity. Barbara stared at Song Didi, and suddenly shouted, Wake up! Song Didi! We are different species. From the moment we awaken, we are different species. You will never have a chance here, you will only die quietly, and bring your things to the grave. Tears flowed down his face. Tang Tian smiled, very good. Bing looked at the ecstatic Shursen, his heart filled with sympathy. You can laugh now, but in a moment, you won't be able to laugh anymore. Intruder! Barbara raised his chin, his expression filled with pride. I serve the intruder. Don't tell me we have another intruder? Barbara waved his hand, pretending to be humorous. He looked at Shursen. How long do you guys need to recover your fighting strength? Barbara did not avoid it and said proudly, Of course it is an important person. Song Didi's expression froze. Previously, the storm in the blue sea had caused countless of blue dwarfs to die. Tang Tian laughed, his face filled with happiness. That is what a hero is. I said, Old Stone, you are not a coward, uncle. Are their equipment ready? Important person? Song Didi curled his lips and said with disdain, What important person can there be in the blue world? I remember you were in the Bai Ling army. God? Song Didi looked at Barbara in disbelief. He never thought that his good friend would actually hide such a legendary experience. A legend is destined to be a legend. Barbara said calmly, previously, the storm in the blue sea was caused by them. We can fight now. Shursen said brazenly. All right, 18 years old kid, what can he do? Song Didi looked at Barbara with a face full of mockery. Trust me, you're not the first, and you won't be the last. I can swing it. Shursen shouted. This saber had a soul. On the other hand, Shi Yong, who was at his side, was in an even worse state. His teeth were chattering, the skin of his mouth was shivering, and his face was ghastly pale. He howled and directly fainted from fear. This place was far from the blue sea and was at the edge of the blue world. The local residents were mostly awakened blue dwarves. Barbara was very angry. He did not know why he was so angry. He tore open his collar and his shrill voice was filled with deep anger. Don't think too highly of yourself. Song Didi. He is a legend, and you are nothing. You are just a pitiful worm that was expelled. As long as I say that I serve the intruders, in Abadia, I can recruit a large group of them. Wei Luo, Xiang Songzan, Suza, who is weaker than you? You have never proven your strength. In the entire Blue Dwarves, no one has proven their strength. Other than the intruders, who else can gather all of us? Song Didi, tell me who else is there? Do you want to live in the dark forever? You said you can still wield a saber? Tang Tian stared at Shursen in front of him, his face expressionless. You're already so old and you can still wield a saber? Tang Tian sneered. Wang Xian and Shi Yong, who were by the side, had faces of envy. This is not your saber. Bing reminded. I am sick of this life. Barbara roared. I can't see any hope. Every day they are muddle-headed. Do you know what they look like to me? Like a group of mechanical puppets. Every day I live in a group of mechanical puppets. I am fucking sick of it. Shur-san extended out his palm. His hand was trembling slightly. When he held onto the saber hilt, he could feel the consciousness of the saber, and his tears flowed down. Song Didi stared at Barbara in shock. The Barbara in front of him, and the cowardly and muddle-headed Barbara that he knew, were like two different people. It is called Evening Snow Ocean. Bing said, from today onwards, it belongs to you. It is a legendary saber with glorious achievements. I hope you do not disgrace it. After being silent for a long time, Song Didi spoke out, I will not serve my mortal enemy, and he is still a child, 18 years old. Barbara corrected him. After a long time, Song Didi then calmed down the excitement in his heart. Why did he come back? After a full 5 to 6 minutes, he finally calmed down. He picked up Evening Snow Ocean and walked to Tang Tian. He knelt down on one knee and said, Underworld Continent's demonic mounts, swears to be loyal to Master. Only Bing's heart was filled with sympathy. In a while, you will know what is called extreme joy turns to sorrow. 10 years ago, I was the one who led the way for him. Barbara looked at Song Didi, his expression filled with pride. Song Didi, didn't you always want to know when I awakened? It was at that time, when I met the great master. Barbara opened his eyes, and saw the world, and not the unchanging blue. Song Didi jumped up from his seat as though his butt was on fire. Barbara, you're crazy. You actually serve the intruders. Don't you know that the intruders are the mortal enemies of our blue dwarves? Shur-sen heaved a sigh of relief. He did not expect it to be so easy, and when he heard that Tang Tian had already prepared the equipment, he was even more surprised. Shur-sen received it and lightly hacked twice, his face revealing a look of joy. It was a black long saber, about 1.5 m long. It had a thick back and a thin edge. The blade was wider than a palm, with a few smooth and round arcs, shaped like a leaf. The blade's body was covered with dark red veins. Upon holding the saber, Shur-sen could not help but smile. It felt extremely good. He did not know what material it was made of. He had never seen it before. The Blue Dwarves were an extremely special group. They were born from the Blue Sea, and among them, more than 90% of their thoughts were controlled by the Blue Sea. Only a small number of Blue Dwarves would awaken and give birth to their own consciousness. The world is so mysterious. Barbara smiled. I am truly not a good soldier, but I am a good guide. Intruder. Song Didi looked at Barbara in a daze. The intruder from 10 years ago? Bing consciously distanced himself from Tang Tian. Crazy Tang's aura was not right, and he definitely could not provoke him at such a time. Seems like Crazy Tang was angered by Shur-sen yesterday. Crazy Tang was slightly annoyed. Shur-sen instigated his energy, and immediately the blade aura shot out. It was over 3 m long, like a gigantic light spear, causing him to smile from ear to ear. Bing lied with his eyes wide open. The Evening Snow Ocean was a spirit treasure that Little Fool had refined through the night. But now that Little Fool's standard of refining spirit treasures had increased greatly, although it was rushed, it was still a rare quality product. Shur-sen said solemnly. He stood perfectly straight with his head held high. The long blade was stabbed in front of him. The surrounding energy formed into a vortex, and was being absorbed by it. Compared to the Black Wind blade, the blade was much narrower and longer. Its blade body was like a pool of seawater, sparkling and translucent, allowing one to see the stones on the ground through the blade body. The blade hilt was snow-white and flawless, like the snow on the mountain peak, revealing traces of cold intent. Bing did not stop, and continued, "We have researched on your armor, and have made some changes to the original plan. The changes were mainly suggested by me. I think that the flexibility of the armor and its affinity to energy is more important than its defensive capabilities. So for the new armor, we have specially designed energy wings. It can allow you to be more agile, and to a certain extent, it can help you control energy." Song Didi revealed a pondering expression. Barbara's words were something he had never thought of before. Regarding the knowledge related to the army, he had learned all of it from Finger College. Finger College was one of the 3 famous schools in the Blue World, but it was different from the other 2 colleges. Finger College was established by a group of awakened blue dwarves, and the students were all awakened blue dwarves. Sherson stared blankly at the long blade, unable to shift his gaze away. If I did not remember wrongly, the intruder's age was not young. How old is his son? 15? 16? After awakening, blue dwarves would become smarter, and if they were willing to pledge loyalty to Blue Ocean, they would definitely gain Blue Ocean's favor and be placed in an important position. He took out a black long blade and threw it to Senator after Song Didi graduated from Finger College. He wanted to put his knowledge to use and entered one of the 6 great orders, the Red Order Army, but because he was not willing to pledge loyalty to Blue Ocean, he was always a marginal figure. His character was not good, and often got into arguments with others, and very quickly he could not stay any longer and returned to Abadia City. "This is your team member's equipment, and your long blade needs to be more outstanding, so we have prepared another long blade for you." Bing took out an azure translucent long blade and threw it in front of Senator. Everyone who thought that Crazy Tang was easy to deal with ended up crying because of their own stupidity. This batch of black blades was a byproduct of Sai Lei's research on how to extract black gold from black stones. The alloy formula was far from perfect, and following the principle of recycling, Sai Lei let his subordinates suppress them into long blades. The dark veins on the blade's body were spirit gold, but the value of this batch of spirit gold was not up to standard, so his subordinates learned from Sai Lei's principle of recycling and casually added it onto the blade. Even the name of the blade could be seen. It was such a random product. Barbara slammed the door and left. "No, it's his son," Barbara said solemnly. "Crazy Tang is stupid most of the time, but you better not meet him when he is not stupid." Chapter 577. In the blink of an eye, it was the 3rd day. Gradually, the underworld continent's demonic mounts became the most terrifying bandits, and their reputation grew. There had never been a moment where his heart was so calm. All the martial techniques that he had learnt flashed past his mind. All the different martial techniques, in his eyes, became extremely clear. Pure physical strength? 80%. Ursa Major Constellation did not have an army that could achieve such a perfect energy synchronization. And Shersen's small team randomly picked 15 people and was able to achieve such a perfect energy synchronization. Bing even suspected that even if all 46 of them fought at the same time, Shersen would be able to achieve 80% energy synchronization. With a flash, he was like a shadow, appearing at the left wing of the small team. Bing was startled. This is Fire Scythe Ghost Claw? But this power seems to be even stronger than the Fire Scythe Ghost Claw. Shersen randomly picked 5 people, but the rest all stood by the side obediently. His state of mind was very relaxed. Although in his heart, he felt that Master's strength should be rather valiant, and that it would be difficult to deal with 5 people, but they had 46 people. No matter how bad it was, 46 people against 1 person, would it be embarrassing? Definitely impossible. Bang. Tang Tian's 5 fingers trembled slightly, rubbing against the air. The temperature of the sparks increased rapidly. The originally red light aura became incandescent, and it continued to increase in temperature. The 15 people waved their blades together. The strong energy undulation caused Tang Tian's eyes to twitch. With the addition of 5 people, Tang Tian felt the pressure immediately increase. In the sparring session, Shursen performed skillfully and easily. At the start, they were continuously defeated by Tang Tian, but after that, the small team that came out under Shursen's guidance quickly restrained Tang Tian, but at this time, the number of sparring partners had already reached 10. He decided to test the waters and attack. In this battle, Tu Ling became a famous general and established the position of the Yuan continent as the first continent in the southern region, and also allowed the underworld continent's demonic mounts to have the title of Southern Region's King of Soldiers. Suddenly, the sky was filled with fine blade auras, flying out from the 15 people's light regiments, like a swarm of hornets pouncing towards Tang Tian. Every blade aura was only the size of a palm, and brought about a terrifying whistling sound. The blade auras shattered. The dense saber auras shattered the moment they came into contact with these light spots. After the battle, the underworld continent's demonic mounts became the soldiers that every powerhouse yearned for. Thus countless of fake underworld continent's demonic mounts started to appear, mixing into the various powerhouses. After a few shocking cases of killing their masters and stealing their wealth, the reputation of the underworld continent's demonic mounts was quickly ruined. The underworld continent was not big, but its reputation spread far and wide, as it produced the most outstanding soldiers. In the underworld continent, there was a set of strict training methods. After the natives were born, from the age of 5, they had to undergo special training. It could only be completed after the age of 20. 80% synchronization rate. Oh, my lord's strength isn't bad, but his tactics aren't mainstream. Master's teacher's standard doesn't seem to be that high, but as long as Master continues to work hard, those weird battle habits can still be changed. When Shursen heard about this mission, he felt very relaxed. It was just a sparring partner. What an easy mission. Although it was the first time they had become sparring partners, Shursen did not take it to heart. In a moment, the reputation of the underworld continent's demonic mounts was ruined, causing their living environment to worsen, and many of the underworld continent's demonic mounts took the path of bandits. The people of the underworld continent loved to fight and worshipped the strong, and after going through the harsh training, the soldiers that were created naturally had high standards. In the underworld continent, only the strongest soldiers could be called demonic mounts, and out of all the soldiers that had completed their training, only 2% were able to obtain the title of demonic mounts. Oh, why is that poker face's expression so weird? Tang Tian calmed himself down, his lower body did not move an inch, and faced the blade auras, his body sank slightly. The sudden enlightenment caused Tang Tian's heart to calm down. The anxiety and restlessness that he had felt for the past few days was swept away. Oh, then let's continue, I'm not tired. Tang Tian did not even raise his head. First, form groups of 5 and try it out. After 600 years of trials and tribulations, there were already fewer and fewer underworld continent soldiers that would participate in the demonic mounts test. The demonic mounts test had gradually become a declining custom, and only the most traditional villages would persevere. And even if they passed the test, they would usually hide their identity as the underworld continent's demonic mounts. Being secretly judged in his heart, his expression was not good. Previously, when there were 5 people, they had an 80% synchronization rate, but he was indifferent. But after that, when there were 10 people, 15 people, the synchronization rate was still maintained at 80%, which was a huge blow to Bing. The more people there were, the slower the synchronization rate would be, but Shursen's team did not. Shursen quickly satisfied Tang Tian's thoughts. Previously, Tang Tian's godlike performance, when he thought about it, he was still shocked. He knew that the majority of it was the power of the Black Castle, but he was curious about Master's true strength. Bang, the 15 people's light regiment crumbled. Senior Ghost Claw, did you see that? The Fire Scythe Ghost Claw has become even stronger in my hands. You must be happy, right? Begin. Looking at the flying light spots, Tang Tian's heart was calm. The Demon King Blazing Firefly was still so beautiful. In the past, there were only 5 Demon King Blazing Fireflies, but in front of him, there were hundreds and thousands of them. Tang Tian did not dodge, he wanted to test the power of his blade. Shursin did not think much of it, he muttered in his heart, Master's fighting spirit is there, but he seems to be too eager for success, I have to find a time to remind him. Tired? To them, the intensity of sparring was nothing, they were the underworld continent's demonic mounts, the underworld continent's demonic mounts that caused people's faces to change. 96 of the underworld continent's demonic mounts, none of them were injured. Shursin felt relieved, he looked at the time, 10 hours had passed, Master is really hardworking, he opened his mouth and said, Master, why don't we rest for 2 hours and continue? Are you guys very tired? Tang Tian looked at them. Dazzling sparks blossomed from Tang Tian's fingertips. Tang Tian did not think much, he who had entered his battle state, was extremely focused. He was like a wild beast, trying his best to find the opponent's weakness. Shursin did not think much of it. I'm becoming stronger. In a radius of 10 m around Tang Tian, sparks floated, like countless of fireflies. They converged at Tang Tian's fingertips, forming 5 beautiful vortex-shaped light belts. 46 underworld continents' demonic mounts that had gone through the most rigorous training, sparring with one person, would they feel tired? That would be a joke. Shursin could not help but stand up, the speed of the 10 fists was completely out of his imagination. He had never seen such fast fists before, they were like lightning, he could not even see every single one of Tang Tian's fists clearly. The abundant energy in the air was quickly ignited, the dazzling white light aura quickly collapsed, becoming a small star-like light spot. Suddenly, Bing felt an immense pressure. We are not tired at all, we are just worried about Master. Shursin explained. The light aura around the small group lit up, following that, a blade aura that was 3 m wide flew towards Tang Tian. The immense pressure caused Tang Tian's potential to explode. Without hesitation, he retracted his right fist and struck out with his left fist, lightning-fast punches. In a short period of time, 10 fists accurately struck the same position of the blade aura. All the martial techniques and true power techniques disappeared like mist, and the more intrinsic parts of the martial techniques quietly surfaced in his mind. The moment the fist and blade aura touched, Tang Tian felt an astonishing power transmitted from his fist. The strong power made him sure that if he did not retract his fist, his arm would definitely break. A light aura flashed past Tang Tian's eyes. With a sharp sound, his right palm flipped strangely, his 5 fingers were like hooks. Welcoming the blade aura, he clawed out. After seeing it for so many days, Shursin still felt that it was inconceivable. Shursin did not take it to heart, a small group sparring with one person, although it was a little extravagant, but the Master still had this privilege. This also showed that the Master was wholeheartedly seeking to improve, and was not willing to fall. That was a good thing, and needed to be encouraged. Lowering his waist into a horse stance, he took a deep breath. Welcoming the blade aura, he punched out. Martial techniques relied on energy, but that was because the martial artist's body was unable to reach such a state. Your first task is to be sparring. Sailala. Underworld continent soldiers were highly sought after goods in any continent, and the underworld continent's demonic mounts were even more popular. What truly made the underworld continent's demonic mounts famous was the battle with the North 600 years ago. A famous general, Tu Gu, brought 96 demonic mounts and circled around 19 continents, and during the decisive battle, he mysteriously appeared behind the northern army, burning down 5 supply bases, and turned the tides of the battle. Could it be that the armies of the Sacred Saint Galaxy were already so ridiculously strong? The 15 of them were shocked, the light dots were like fireflies, flying in front of them. With that said, the 15 of them immediately lit up with light auras. The 5 light auras quickly fused and became one. Tang Tian was secretly surprised. If he were to close his eyes, he would definitely think that there was only one person in front of him and not 15 people. Tang Tian was filled with pride, mixed with a faint sorrow. Tang Tian's arms were slightly numb, but his face was filled with excitement. The haze in his heart was swept away. After sparring for the past few days, he understood that although the Sacred Saint Galaxy was strong, it was not undefeatable. All the power systems did not have a difference in strength. they were just different paths. Whether you were strong or not did not depend on which path you chose, but on how far you walked on your own path. Xianxia praised with the mentality of someone who had experienced it before. Bing, who was by the side, also revealed a serious look. It was energy synchronization. To an army, the more energy synchronization, the less energy they lost, and the more energy they could use. Tang Tian's sparring partners had already increased to 15 people. He carefully observed the 15 people in front of him. They were standing in a rhombus formation, maintaining a certain distance from each other. And he did not see any fist auras, which also meant that when the master punched out, it did not involve any energy. So when Wang Xian and Shi Yong heard Xianxia's identity as the underworld continent's demonic mounts, their faces of fear were definitely not faked. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.